Alright, should be good to swap over, I think. Yes. Okay. Looks like we're good, and should be good. Having a little bit of a technical hiccup here, but looks like that's live. That's live. Okay. All right, excellent. Okay, good to be back. Been a pretty good week overall. Not a whole lot of crazy stuff happening, which is honestly nice to just have a relatively chill week. Kind of intense, in terms of just having to work a bit of overtime, kind of juggling a few different things. But at the end of all of it, kind of, I've been looking forward to the stream. Just having the opportunity to get all that stuff out of the way and then just come back and focus on something that's a little bit more low key, more fun to kind of go over. Oh, hey Kakuzu, how's it going, man? How's your week going so far? Or I guess, how has your week been, rather? What's new on your side of things? Hopefully everything's going okay with the travel and the work and all that. It's just started to get colder over here. We got some snow. It's been fun to kind of go out. My dog goes crazy for like running around in the snow. So been getting slightly more exercise. Trying to spend a little bit more time playing with her when I can. Slightly less. It's always less than I'd want. Oh, the news is good. That's awesome. Congratulations. What good news did you get? I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, so hopefully you're doing okay with everything. Always good to get some good news. You're gonna do a Kakuzu versus Akatsuki video. You're almost finished. It's around 300 pages. Wow, that's amazing. I'm super excited for that. That's really cool. Are you do you have like the footage? Or so you're finishing writing up the script and you still got to do like the editing and the and everything else, or are you just kind of like wrapping up the script and like starting everything, or are you kind of like almost done? That's really exciting though. I'd be very curious to see that. Like, of course, I want to ask you what your thoughts are on like how you would rank the characters, but I also don't want to spoil it, right? Like, I'm looking forward to whenever that comes out. That's awesome. I'm guessing you're gonna put Kakuzu pretty high. I wouldn't blame you. Hang on one second. Let me make this a little bigger. Here we go. Oh, good news for cinema as well, and your manga. Oh, that's awesome. Really glad to hear that. I'm tempted to say yes to sharing the G-Doc, but let me... I don't know. I'll ask you how you feel about it. I guess I'll defer to you, because if you'd like me to take a look at it and give you some feedback, like suggest things or like critique arguments or even just like read it for fun, without like criticizing it or anything, I'm totally happy to do so. If you would prefer to kind of save it and like unveil it when the time is right, that's also cool too. I don't want to put any pressure on you. I was more just making sure, like I wanted to congratulate you because that is a lot of work. It's a lot of effort and I respect that. So, congratulations. Is this, oh, wait a minute. I was just about to ask you if you have other videos like on a channel or something, but I think I saw an AMV that you made. Is that right? And I remember thinking it was super cool. The way that you portrayed the characters was like kind of mysterious and kind of atmospheric without being like overly edgy, if that makes sense. I was like, oh, this is awesome. You should do more of this stuff. So I'm glad you're getting back into content. Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. So I think it might make sense if you're cool with it. Would you be comfortable like sending me a link in chat, and then I'll like kind of go over the document on my own time and then get back to you like next stream? Or did you want to look at like a little bit of it right now? I'm happy to. I do want to keep talking about the video and maybe like talk about the Chibaku Tensei and stuff as well. But if you want me to take a look like at a particular section or something, we could do that for a little while. Otherwise, yeah, I'm more than happy to look over it off stream. Cool. Yeah, that was really good. For your first one especially, that's really good. I think we might have talked about it previously, but remember correctly, there was like a watermark. Like you said something about there being a watermark on the video that was irritating. For the video that I did, Itachi versus Pain, I used a oh wait, not Noodles channel. Where's my channel? I used a software called CapCut, and so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for something this long because once you get past like 2 hour mark, it starts to really chug. It might be, if you do decide to use it, it might be better to like split it right down the middle and then like just fuse those two halves later on, because doing the 3 hours like all in this just meant that like by the end I would press, you know, the right or the left arrow key to kind of scroll a little bit in the timeline, and it would like chug for a full 2 or 3 seconds. It was a nightmare. So but getting to that point, like up to the 2 hour mark, it was fine. I think it's totally free. I might have spent like $10 for a monthly subscription or something, but I don't even think so. So but then I've also heard people say DaVinci Resolve is pretty good. I'm sorry if you already know all this, by the way. I'm just just decided to go on a rant. Maybe you're already familiar with all the software and everything. Yeah. Only Pain is missing, best for last. Nice, nice. Okay. Oh, so it's not the final version. That makes sense. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll be very curious to see what you come up with. I think, honestly, maybe you would disagree with this, but I kind of feel like there is plenty of room for debate. Like, I know that some people are just like, everybody's going to put Hidan towards the bottom. A lot of people probably put Konan lower in the list just because she doesn't have as much screen time. And, you know, I guess like Datara and Sasori get kind of lumped towards the bottom as well. But depending on how you evaluate their abilities, like what you think of not just like their raw power, so to speak, but also the particular matchups that they can get involved in, you could skew the list in a lot of different ways, depending on your perspective. Like Six on his channel, maybe a few months ago, had a debate. I think it was Six and Shad who were having like a debate gauntlet about Obito versus Pain, and then it went off into Obito versus some other characters were incorporated in that debate. And I think that in general people seem to have a consensus, but there was still a lot of individual takes and like riffs on the arguments that came up, and you can get pretty creative with it. I could see an argument, for example, that Sasori has the AP to kill pretty much anybody else in the Akatsuki if he lands his poison. Like, maybe you don't agree with that, that's totally fine, but like I could see somebody making that argument. Or Kisame with his water bubble, you know, that's obviously something that's going to be very, very effective on a lot of different characters, but I don't know. Not necessarily a guaranteed victory against anyone, but still applying that water bubble to all of Sasori's puppets versus applying it to somebody like Pain, who has the Predapath who can absorb it, you know, depending on who you put each character up against in the Akatsuki, the outcome might be very different. So yeah, it's a really big challenge. I am like, have you been having fun with it? Because honestly, as I'm talking about it, I'm starting to get like a tiny bit overwhelmed just thinking about all the different like permutations and different versions. So, oh, you didn't do any ranking. Okay, sorry, did I misunderstand? You said, oh, it's Kakuzu versus the rest of the Akatsuki. Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, so is it like a gauntlet where he's like going up against Sasori first and then Datara first and then, you know, seeing how far he can get up the ladder? Or is it him versus the entire Akatsuki at once? Cool. Oh, the poison hacks, yeah. Sasori wins 100% versus Kisame, by the way. Maybe. Oh, you think that like the poison would just be a perfect counter to his the water bubble and all the other stuff that he can do? I wonder if there's probably an argument that based on his speed that Kisame could like get around Sasori's defenses and tag him with the like Samehada or something like that. I think he has opportunities, or like that giant shark bomb Kamehameha thing he used against Guy. Like that's another opportunity I think he has. I don't think it would be a no diff situation, but yeah, I mean like the AP on that poison could scale potentially to any of the Akatsuki members as long as they have like anything resembling human anatomy. It's one by one. Okay, that's a little bit more fair. Yeah. I don't like, not to dunk on Kakuzu or anything, but I think there are very, very few characters who could take on the whole Akatsuki. Maybe Madara could, um, like EMS Madara. I mean, like obviously, by the time you get to the war arc and you got like Edo Tensei, Rinnegan eyed Madara, that's one thing. But EMS Madara might be able to do it. Maybe a little bit more debatable. I'm not sure. Giant bubble automatically takes chakra, and the iron sand is poisonous, so Kisame won't even know he would poison himself. That's a good point. That's a good point. So you're saying that he would like siphon off the chakra with the poison, and then he would get poisoned by like trying to suck it out, basically. Have I seen like I don't see a link actually. No, I don't see a link. Did you send the Google Doc link in chat? I don't see it anywhere. I'm looking in OBS and I'm looking in the Google Studio real quick, and I don't see any links in chat. Yeah, I wonder if it like sometimes when I write messages to people, or like leave comments rather to people, if I include a link, like even if it's like a link to like a wiki or something like that, I think YouTube's algorithm flags it or notices it and might mark it like for approval or just automatically delete it. Because I remember I left a comment on somebody's page at one time, and then it got deleted, and then I like posted it again like a couple times, and then eventually the guy was like, "Hey, can you stop? Just stop reposting this?" And I was like, "Wait, what do you mean?" And I guess like he had been getting email notifications that I had been sending him the comments, but YouTube for some unknown reason just like flagged it and removed it, maybe because it had a link in it. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not seeing it here. But tell you what, so I was gonna, I know Alhert mentioned that he might want to jump onto Discord later. I haven't really set up the Discord fully at this point, because, you know, I made a server, and I'm not fully like I haven't like learned all the ins and outs of it, but I could try to send you an invite, and you could send me a DM there, maybe? Figure out how to do this. 1 second. Oh wait, here. See, I'm. You can kind of tell that I don't know what I'm doing. 1 second. Okay. 1 sec. I'm sorry. I'm just navigating this off screen. Okay. Oh no, it's literally not even letting me do that. Yeah, I might have to figure this out. Do you have a Discord name that I could search for you with? Otherwise, yeah, because I'm doing create invite and hit the copy button and paste it, and that's not working either. So, sorry, I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here. I apologize. But yeah, I might have to take a second to figure out what's going on with this. And then once I have that, though, I'm totally happy to look over things. I don't know why it's not letting you post it in chat. That's really weird. Let me actually look on the stream if I just like go in another window. Like as like incognito or whatever. To look over things. No, it's not showing up there either. Yeah. Oh. Hardy Antares. Okay, cool. That's a cool name. Why does Antares sound familiar? Is it like a star or a galaxy or something like that? I feel like I might have asked you that before. No, I'm searching for you there as well, Cardi Antares, and it says no user found. So clearly I'm just Discord idiot. I apologize. So I will look into this. If you're comfortable with me doing so, I'll write your username down. I mean, I guess it's in the stream chat now anyway. And I will figure this out and then send you an invite, and then wait, hang on a second. How about this? Let's see if this works. No. See, when I try to copy the link over, it literally just says this. So I'm just like being a goober, and I need to educate myself on how this works. So sorry about that, but I will figure it out. And then in the meantime, you know, I'll send you an invite whenever I can figure that out. You're more than welcome to send me a DM in the server, and then we can go from there. But regardless, sorry I can't like respond to it immediately, but that is super cool, and I will be very, very eager to see it when it comes out. Do you have a timeline in mind? Do you know kind of vaguely when you're targeting a release? I mean, I know it's hard to know for sure, but yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't know why. You could send me your Discord name too. Mine should just be the same. It should be John the Maven. Right? Literally that. Let's see if I have like a friend code or something. Oh, it's that. If I copy that out. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'm preaching to the choir. You probably already know this since you're like an artist type person. But something that I experienced when I was working on the Kakuzu versus Pain, or the Itachi versus Pain video, is that I got kind of fixated on the deadline that I wanted it to come out, and then when I realized that it wasn't going to come out that quickly, I kind of became like fixated on like I have to get it out as soon as possible anyway, and I think that took some of the fun out of it, because after a while I was just you know, using all my free time to do it for the most part, and it started to get a little less fun because I was getting so fatigued. Like I got burned out a little bit, and in the end I'm kind of glad that I did it. It was a worthwhile experience, but I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. I wouldn't be like, hey, take this thing that you're passionate about that's fun, and then basically just work yourself until you're totally exhausted and you're just desperate to have it have it done with. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but yeah. Not like you need my advice per se, but if I can just pass that along, like what my experience was like, especially if it's like a 300-page script, take your time with it, you know, make sure you don't burn yourself out, like enjoy the process. And then whenever it comes out, I'll be super eager to check it out. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure what's up. I appreciate that. I gotta figure it out though, because like I've told Alhert a couple of times now as well that like I would jump on to VC, and I have the server, like, voice crack. Wait, hang on. I guess something. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, that worked. What changed? Oh, because I think I was doing it from the server itself. Yeah, that's probably what it was. I was trying to add you from the server, and you weren't on my friends list. I needed to add you from like a DM to start off with, and then bring you into the server. For whatever reason, the actual whatchamacallit, the actual like channel wasn't letting me just invite people arbitrarily, so to speak. Okay, awesome. Kakuzu versus Katsuki. Okay, so did you want me to pull it up and take a look at it real quick? I want to make sure that I so I got it open in the other monitor. I don't know if you want me to keep it off screen, or if you want me to bring it over. Let me know. There's 2 streams. There shouldn't be. Are you seeing like 2 different versions of this particular stream? You can hear sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Yeah, I'll bring it over. Wow, you weren't kidding. This is massive. Like such a Hokaku, you don't get to take everything. This one brand is defensive, not immune speed. Yeah. This is a great place to start, in my opinion, because his Diamond Morph obviously is a source of both attack and defense, and it's going to be like some of his most impressive feats are around Diamond Morph, so that's good. I love that you're including the databook scans with the you know things in context with the page numbers and stuff. That's very helpful because you know, a lot of us in the community are probably familiar with the data books and stuff like that, but for random people, just going onto YouTube and trying to discover Naruto content, they just come across it. They don't necessarily know what any of this stuff is. So it's really cool that you're providing that context. It's something that I wish that more people would do, honestly. I think that with people like Sage of Thick Calves and Six and like creators like them, at this point, maybe NC Hammer, although I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, more and more people are kind of happy to provide that context. So that's good to see, but it is appreciated. I know it's more work for you to do to get all the scans and everything, but it is appreciated. Which means, what happened when we died? Disappears the dark. Yeah, this is really interesting stuff. You might want to talk about. I don't know if it's relevant here, but I remember going over like Dan's or Don, however you pronounce his names, like spirit transfer ghost form or whatever. And that plus the like Pain's ability to pull souls out of people's heads. There's a couple of things like that throughout the series that give you a little bit of insight into death in Naruto in general, which does seem to work a little bit different from Death in our Real World. Oh yeah, here's that thing that you pointed out. That's good. I want to thank you again for what do you say? For introducing me to that idea. Or like educating me about that. That's the word I was looking for. Let's see. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. No, I'm there. I just like I have my window kind of cropped weirdly, so my username is like up in the right, if that's what you mean. Seeing yourself in the comment. Yep. Let's see. Let me just double check. I don't want to be ignoring anything. Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be the case. Okay. Okay. Yep, the Asuma fight is good. Yeah, for whatever reason, in a lot of the debates that I've heard, or the conversations, videos that I've heard about this stuff, they don't, the Asuma fight doesn't actually get talked about very much, but there's some important data there. This is true. Yeah, he is really smart. That shouldn't be underestimated. First Asuma blade, yep. Learned to plant a scythe in the tree to escape it. Yeah, so a lot of people just call Hidan stupid, and I guess like he has a low data book stat for intelligence or whatever. But at the same time, he at the very least definitely has like high degree of reflexes. He's able to navigate very effectively. He is a very skilled and talented combatant, right? Like just because he's the lowest Akatsuki member doesn't mean he's just trash in general. He obviously is very skilled. So I appreciate you pointing that out. I think people tend to, look at the fact that the lower tier Akatsuki members are less badass than the higher tier ones, and then they just say, in general, he's stupid or whatever. But yeah, he's immature, right? He's just like brash and arrogant, and he kind of like rushes in and boasts, and yeah. Which, to be fair, like I think Nagato as a human being is also very intelligent. He's probably some kind of a genius, but he gets perceived as being stupid because during his fights he acts really arrogant and kind of aloof, and basically undermines his own intelligence through that, right? Yeah, cool. Yeah, good. This is great. Looking at the actual taijutsu sequence in detail. Yeah, I appreciate that. Also important to note, right, that the wind style pressure damage is something that is done in combination with Hidan. Sometimes people will just give that to Kakuzu as if it's his own thing, but no, it's a combo attack. I do wonder, like, how Kakashi managed to get away from it, if he, like ricocheted off the, like, rebounded off the tree or something, because he's in midair, which makes his feat, like, even more impressive. Although I guess they haven't really traveled all that far, right, if they're just taking off from the broken tree. So there's probably plenty of room to maneuver, but still, that's a good thing to point out. Yep. Oh yeah, they're just kind of like bouncing on and around the trees. This is Kakashi's fatigue, fair enough. Let's go Kakuzu because the one who exhausted him too. Yeah, this is all good stuff. the knowledge of his ritual. Yeah, this is cool. So, oh, you say the Kisame fight is around 100 pages? Okay, let me skip ahead. Oh, look at all this stuff. You've got so many scans. This is awesome. This is really, really good stuff. Let's keep going. Sorceries, win conditions. Yep, there's the Raida, the Ebony Blade. That's a good point. I probably babbled about the Ebony Blade for like an hour a couple streams ago, but I didn't actually emphasize the fact that it does count as a knowledge feat for Kakuzu, right? It's just more evidence of his experience and his experience and the breadth and depth of his knowledge is the phrase I'm looking for with regards to shinobi tools and techniques and stuff like that. And then I think maybe you don't have it here, that's totally fine, but I think right before this, the page before this, he says something like a pitiful attempt at obfuscation to the crows. He's like not even impressed by any of this, so he just immediately sees through Raido's technique. And then the blade is also hidden like in the middle of the crows. It's even hard to see as a reader, and he just spots that and immediately counters it. So, you know, yeah, see, even in the black and white, like it's almost impossible to see in there, but he picked it out. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. He knew that that Dan was her lover. That is such a random piece of information for him to know. It's honestly a little creepy. But it just goes to show you, like, actually, you know, come to think of it, he is a shinobi who specifically goes around hunting other people down, and so he has to be good at tracking people and at, like, knowing what their like personal information is to potentially find them like at home. He's not just running into them on the battlefield. He has to know like where they lurk, so to speak. So I guess that makes sense. It's not out of character or anything. This is a cool shot. Sorry, I lost track of things. I was looking for the Kisame. I'm just gonna do a quick search for Kisame. Oh, it's right. Of course, I'm looking right at it. Okay. Okay, let me read a little bit of this. The one only Kisame of the Misja. Also known as a tailless tailed beast, who's the main chakra pool, having the most chakra reserves in the Katsuki. He mainly uses water style and could change the area to his advantage. He's also a good fighter in close combat, even though base B was faster than him. Yes, he defeated Killer B, right? Was B overall faster than him in that fight? I don't remember if B had a strong advantage in taijutsu speed. I felt like they were relative, but I might be misremembering. It might also just be more about like Samehara, right? Because Kisame uses Samehara to drain chakra, and that's how he gets his advantage. Of the particular or the chakra and cut some jutsu, not absorbing jutsu, like when you say. Oh, interesting. So you think that's true, right? During the Edo Itachi fight, Samehara just cuts right through the center of the oncoming fireball. It doesn't absorb the fireball like the Predapath does. Center splitting the fire. Okay, I have a question. Is Samehara female? I never thought about that before. I guess I always just thought it was either male or didn't have a gender because it was a sword or whatever. Like I didn't think about it, but it kind of makes sense. Yeah, I'd be curious about that. I'm not like second guessing you per se. I just never thought about that. Yeah, she's a living sword which absorbs chakra originates on her. Yep. Good comments. Yeah, okay. Yeah, somehow I never put two and two together with that. Now I feel bad because like earlier I was complaining about how Daigo Knight referred to Kurama as female, like he used female pronouns for her at some point, and I was like, well, that just shows you he doesn't really know what he's talking about. But like I never even thought to think of this. So tendency with like enemies with a lot of chakra pool and tissue chakra he demonstrated versus B. We also know based on B's fight that somehow how to have an unpredictable personality, betraying his user. Yeah, that's true. I like the fact that you're talking about Samehara like a character rather than just as a tool, which is true. I mean, it's pretty obvious, I guess, if you pay attention to what's happening on panel. But I think that it's maybe something that gets overlooked a little bit. Samehara does have a personality, right? And so it's almost like a bit of a duo, whoever winds up getting the sword, as opposed to some of the swords of the other swordsmen of the mist that are just purely tools, like the one with all the paper bombs on it and shit like that, right? That's really cool. Yeah, I really like that. I wasn't able to dodge one of the blades trying to be Hada wasn't there, but it pierced all Kisame's body and the pencil could. Yeah, I think that's probably reasonable, yep. So, Bray absorbing? So, oh, you mean like, so reabsorbing? Can he really fight B? Yeah, I mean, so far, like, everything here seems logical. It seems like you're doing a really good job of not just looking at one fight. See, okay, I really appreciate this, actually. You're not just looking at individual moments per se and saying, like, okay, well, here, like, Killer B blitzes Kisame, and here, Kisame blitzes Killer B or whatever, and just saying that will win them the fight one way or the other. Instead, you're looking at, like, individual segments of the fight moment by moment, and you're talking about how the fight unfolds in a more organic way. And you're considering, like, different, like, comparing the pencil to the blade, etc. So, yeah, I think that the most convincing videos and the most entertaining videos that I've seen on stuff like this are ones in which, you know, they're looking at feats as part of the whole equation, as part of, like, the dance, so to speak, of the fight, as opposed to just individual hits or whatnot. So this is really good. I'm looking forward to seeing this when it comes out. Yep. Pre-absorption. Oh, pre-absorption. Okay, yep, sorry. Should have noticed that. Yeah, this is really, really good. I think I'm gonna go back to the video in a second, but is there any other section you'd like me to look over? Any feedback in particular you were hoping to get? I don't want to get too nitpicky or anything. Save that for noodles. Oh yeah, this is the one I was talking about before. Actually, I want to hear this. The Kakuzu speed arguments. You don't say that you couldn't hit Yugito in base. Yugito scale. Oh, interesting. Okay. Many argument to that. It'll be a Warwick. This instance, I'll say she's amped to Sharingan and Rinnegan, even though they are a projection. But B says something interesting here. He recognizes a jutsu Yugito used in Living Days the rodent hairball and says he needs to retreat because the attack is dangerous. An indicator. Yugito's combat speed is shown to be faster than this B who carries ACM Naruto. Yeah, I know what scene you're talking about. I think it would be great to include. Oh, you did. Okay, yeah. Yeah, because, like, this comes up a lot and then people don't, like, they take it out of context. Interesting to note, I think, that Killer B is on the defensive and he's got Naruto, like, wrapped up in his tentacle. So this entire time he's basically trying to protect Naruto from everything that's going on. But yeah, this very clearly establishes the rodent hairballs as things that could potentially damage them. And I guess that makes sense, right? Because Naruto just had his cheek burned by Roshi's, was it Fireball or Fire Punch or something like that a couple pages ago? So they're all threats. And Yukito's up there as well. But B can tag Yukito since he cut her, but also Yukito's fast enough for B. So I will, just because I'm me and I can't shut up about this stuff, I will say that I think it's worth considering that B is only has one tail out, and I think Sabu-chan, his master of Enka, says something. I think we talked about this last time, right? That when he has 7 tails out, he's still not going. He's still not taking what's his name, Kisame, seriously. So it's totally fine, I think, to say that she scales to this version of Killer B. Oh, I guess he has 2 tails out actually. But then also keeping in mind that Killer B, just full stop, Killer B as a character can go faster than this, and it does kind of look like Yukito. You know, she launches this attack, and then while the attack is being launched, she's anticipating his movements and kind of cutting him off. So that's still impressive. Like, I think it's still worth noting. But there might be some argument that they're not technically equal in speed because she is taking advantage of the predictive vision and stuff like that. Well, that's fine. You think Yukito says he cut her, but also Yukito's fast enough for B to not dodge her blow entirely. Yeah, I think it's important to look at things in context, but I definitely see where you're coming from on that. And I appreciate, like, all the scans and that you're going through the fight, like, beat by beat and all that. On your point on Kakuzu scaling in this fight. And Obito, yep, okay. It says that Edo Yugito is near B's level in combat speed. There's that not her reaction or anything. She was able to close the gap between them and cut a part of him. It's something. It is something, yeah. If B wasn't able to dodge properly, it means something, don't you think? I do think so. I think the him being on the defensive with Naruto is worth noting, but I also think that, well, you could also argue that like Yukito only has one tail out, right? She doesn't have both tails out. She's not in V2, so potentially she could go even faster than this. Then the question becomes, how much faster is Yugito when she's in her Maratabi full possession state versus how fast she is here? And that I think that the problem with that is that it's hard to calc because we only have the 1 feat for Maratabi in Yugito in their alive form, and that's just the pause swipe followed by the fire breath attack. So it's a little hard to get it to like know exactly how fast she is here compared to there. Some people might say that it's when she has more tails out, or the more transformed she is into Maratabi, the more chakra she's manifesting, so she should be faster. But obviously her anatomy is different here, right? She's smaller, she's in this cat-like form. I think you could also argue that she is faster when she's in 1 tail, 2 tail, or V2 mode, and then she might actually be slower overall when she's fully transformed because now she's got more mass to move around. So there's a couple variables to consider. Enough force to make B fly away. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, they clash and then he kind of goes off in the other direction. Okay, the argument is... it looks like maybe some photos are out of order here, but I'm not sure. Oh yeah, has enough energy to, yeah, push them back. Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Yep. So she uses her talons, her claws, and she's like slashing and kicking at B, and that pushes him back. And it's 2 tails Killer B, right? Because there's one going up here towards the right of the panel, and the other one is grabbing Naruto. So that's some good information there. This as well. Sorry, is this the sort of stuff you wanted me to talk about? Let me know if you need me to jump around at all. Yeah, this is stuff we went over before. She kept on improving herself. This is from the 4th data book, right? Yeah, it has to be because of the Edo Tensei. So that she tormented Naruto and the others, so it's KCM1, including B, Shirley War, Kakashi, and Guy included since it's others. Yeah, probably. I don't remember what she actually did to Kakashi in that fight. I remember Kakashi and Guy show up, and then she's transformed into Maratabi, and in that possession state, she and the other Biju create those giant Biju bombs and shit. So she's definitely a threat to them. I don't remember them actually clashing or fighting in taijutsu or anything like that, or doing a jutsu clash. So it was more about, I think, her presence overall on the battlefield with the other Biju. Yeah, power of the tail beast she controls. Yep. The Naruto quiz book made in 2019, so post ship it in. Oh, this is cool. Oh, this is the thing you were talking about before with the 300 questions and stuff like that. That's cool. Okay. I gotta pick up a copy of this. Yukito and B formed a duo. She was the Jinchuriki of the 2 tails from Kumo. She was immensely powerful, achieving complete control. She was exceptionally skilled and had also succeeded in perfecting her transformation. Okay, yeah. So what are the important informations here? She formed a duo with B, and we know that each duo are relative to one another. So, she completed. Honestly, this quote here, assuming this translation is accurate, which I'm just going to assume that it is, this pushes me a little bit more towards the belief in the whole perfect Jinchuriki thing a little bit. Granted, it's not definitive proof to my mind that she was definitely friends with Maratabi and they got along and he just gave her chakra freely. But what Killer B says is that to Naruto after they do their training in the sanctuary is that normally a Jinchuriki and the host will work out the parameters of the chakra exchange. They'll decide upon the ratio of chakra that will be exchanged between them. So if she's totally mastered and dominated Maratabi, or mastered the perfected the transformation, even if she's not what do you call it? She's not friends with Maratabi and she's not getting chakra for free, you could probably put this together and you know, put it alongside the fact that like B is involved in this duo together, like they're working together, and B did achieve complete control through friendship, you could look at all of that and say maybe it is actually kind of likely that even if she didn't like become as close friends with Maratabi, even if that's not 100% provable, that she probably like achieved whatever the next best thing is, and you know, had some kind of arrangement worked out with Maratabi that was like the pinnacle of what could be achieved in her state. Right? So I like this information. I like that you included it. Won't necessarily say I'm fully convinced about the perfect Jinchuriki thing, but at this point, like, that extra piece of evidence does contribute to that argument in a good way. So, important information if you want to duo with B and know that each duo are relative to one another. Oh, I see what you mean. Well, I would dispute this slightly just because I feel like that the real duo of Kumogakure was A and B, right? That's kind of the whole point of their names, is that A and B form like that like perfect pair, and then they do the double lariat together and they have to perfectly match each other's chakra. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, but the backstory thing on the Turtle Island, why don't I just pull that up real quick actually. Just to kind of take a look at it for fun. I want to say it would be around like 520 or something like that. Just looking at this the other day, maybe 505. That's a little bit further. 510, something like that. Let's try that. So the Obito fight. But yeah, you probably already know what I'm referring to, which was just the oh, has he already mastered Nine-Tails chakra at this point? It's the thing where they're going into the backstory. Yeah, so it would be before this, right? Because it would be the thing with Motoi. Let's just try to go back to chapter 500. Before this, because this is in the actual training thing. Yeah, you remember what I'm talking about, right? Like I'm looking it up just for my own fun or whatever. But specifically the thing where yeah, here we go. Where A and B are training to, is it here, or is it, if I can't find it here, then I'll just move on. It might be during the Raikage fight, but the thing I'm specifically referring to is when A and B, when B is a little kid and he's training and he is using like that, like he's going up against that rubber doll or that puppet or whatever it is with his lariat, and he's trying to make sure that it matches the power. Yeah, I can't remember where it is off the top of my head, but I think you know what I'm talking about, right? So all of that tangent was just to say that I think that Killer B and A form a very real duo, and that duo is not that doesn't mean that they're necessarily whoops, NSFW for YouTube. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily equivalent in strength. Either at any given time they might be, like they might modulate their strength to be equivalent. But overall, like B is obviously stronger than A, and so I wouldn't necessarily assume that this means that they're equivalent, but I see your point. Also the fact that B looked up to her could mean many things, but in regards to being what the manga displays too. Oh, what's this from? Is this from the quiz book as well? That's cool. I don't think I've seen that. Yeah, I haven't seen Maratabi's face like this before. That's cool. Maratabi, I designed this piece. Oh, is this from the art book? Yeah, I just ordered it and it hasn't arrived yet, I don't think. It's based on the image of a two-tailed cat that turns into a monster as it grows, usually a sexual person, and even Killer B holds her in high regard. Yeah, that's true. She's really her. at least on par with B to a degree, which is already quite something. And as a Neto, yep. Based on that, Kakuzu should be on par with her, not better, close to versus Kisame. Due to Kakuzu's vast knowledge and because he's an Akatsuki member, she knows that somehow it does. Yeah, so I think you've got some good information there. I think you've got some scans there that are relevant and new. Like, thank you for actually bringing in some new information, which is really cool to see. New to me anyway. But I think I'm pretty knowledgeable about this topic, so like I have more to learn, but yeah, I have not seen this information in the past couple of years. It's really cool to see. I think that overall there are things you could anticipate might dispute the claim that you made, in that killer. So I'm gonna say that I like your approach overall, and I think like I wouldn't be upset by the arguments you made at all, right? Just to be just like my knee-jerk reaction. If I'm being pedantic, or if I'm in a debate or something like that, and I'm looking for things to complain about, I would say maybe going through the rest of the fight with Yukito as an Edo Tensei, and looking at any other interactions that she has with Naruto and B, specifically when, in addition to when she's in her like one tails out state, also looking at when she's fully transformed and when she's fighting along with the other Biju, and how the attacks with the other Biju are complementing one another. Like, for example, I know this wasn't the argument that you made, but Noodles or somebody in the past said that Yukito like damaged KCM Naruto, and it's like, my reading of that scene is that it's really hard to tell how much damage was done, and it's also part of a combination of attacks with all the other Jinchuriki. So if you were to talk about that as an example, it's useful to kind of put that in context and show how the other Jinchuriki Jinchuriki are contributing to that interaction, because then Naruto gets like hit with a coral palm on his back and stuff like that. And so that's all I would say, is that you have a good foundation here, and you bring up good points, and you've got good scans and evidence and stuff. If anything, my feedback would just be to go even deeper, look even further. If you've already done that and you think you kind of said everything that needs to be said, then disregard. But that's the only thing I could think of that like might be more to dive into there. Yeah, the V2 versus KCM. Yep. Okay, yeah, that's totally fine. As long as you've considered it and like looked over it. If you didn't find anything there that you think is relevant, then that's fine. Okay. Okay. So I think this all looks really good. I don't want to spoil myself too much. I'm looking forward to seeing how everything comes together. This is really cool. Yeah. There are a lot of really cool fights in Naruto. A lot of really cool concepts and stuff. Yeah. So I think that's it for now. But if there's anything else you want me to look over, you said something about Obito before. Let me look at Obito real quick. Orange Mask Obito. Oh, it's the end. Okay, I don't want to read the whole thing, but let me look at least. Let's dive quickly into Obito's abilities. Honestly, like, I think Orange Mask Obito is maybe the more interesting form to talk about, because as he gets stronger and stronger, he just he has so many hacks, so many crazy abilities, so much durability, so much stamina. It's almost less fun to to talk about him unless you're talking about characters approaching like Madara's level. But with Kamui is such a weird ability, because it seems designed specifically to erase his presence and to negate himself, which I think thematically is pretty cool. And so talking about how he can use this ability, which is specifically designed to not be an AP based attack, like it's essentially a hack, or it's something that like doesn't have attack potential or potency in the way that most other attacks do. And the way that he uses it is also not necessarily an instant kill, right? If he grabs somebody's head and teleports the head away, that's one thing. But if he just puts somebody in Kamui, they're not necessarily dead right away. So it's a very powerful ability. It's a very versatile ability, but it's also one of the few abilities that he even has. And so he has to basically, in a way, it's kind of like the Rasengan, or maybe better yet, the Shadow Clone Jutsu. That's another jutsu that doesn't necessarily have a ton of AP in and of itself, but if it's used in all kinds of crazy ways, it can open up so many different avenues of attack. It can be used in such a versatile array of modes that can be used for attack, for defense, for evasion, for scouting, for anything, right? So, let's see. I am kind of curious. Just have his buddy with Hachirama cells. Yeah, I always forget about that. Dragon 3 team, good kill. Okay, Data was saying unconsciously. Yep, that's a good point. Hey, Owlheart, how you doing? Good to see ya. Yeah, everything's going well over here. It's been a busy week. I've had a bit of overtime work, and that's finally kind of ramping down a little bit. Maybe another week or so. But so if I sound a little fuzzy-brained, if I sound a little bit tired, then that's why. But yeah, it's been good. Everything's chill for the most part. How about you? How's everything going on your end? Oh yeah, this is something that Kakuzu and Holiday sent over. I'll let him kind of explain, but we're just kind of going over some of the arguments and the scans and stuff presented. Right now we're just talking about Obito real quick. Talking about Kisame versus Kakuzu before as well. Get more. Feeling good? Okay, good. Good to hear that. What games are you playing these days? Have you checked out Astrobot at all? Or Balatro? I was checking those out over the past month or so. I've been, like, when I actually have time to play, I played a little bit of Balatro because everybody at the Game Awards was going crazy about it. And then I was really skeptical about Astrobot. It's not really my kind of game, but oh my god, it's so charming. It's so, I don't know, I usually play a lot of really kind of depressing edgy games, and so I wasn't really expecting to fall in love with it the way that I did, but just like it's just happy. It's just, I don't know what it says about me, that just like sitting down and playing something that's just happy, but it's great. It's just like you feel all the stress melting away. And then, Kabuto has a win con on Obito. I would be very curious to hear that. What do you think he can do to get to him with the? Oh wait, I'm sorry. What form of Kabuto? Do you mean like the Sage Kabuto, Snake Dragon Boy, or do you mean like Part 1 Medical Ninja Scalpel Kabuto? Yeah, snakes that have poison, which inhibits. Oh, that's a very good point, actually. Yeah, not your style. Yeah, that's totally fine. Mainly, on Warframe, cool. Just like Ancient Impacts. And was it Devil May Cry 4? Oh yeah, I think you talked about Devil May Cry on a previous stream. That's cool. So, Sage Kabuto, yeah, for sure. For sure, I would agree with you on that. Especially if it's Orange Mask Obito, then yeah. I think his sensory abilities are just like off the charts, right? So I don't know that Obito could take advantage of or make good use of his like the teleportation and flanking and surprise attacking stuff. I think that would pretty much be a no-go. Yeah, how is Warframe these days? I tried to play it a couple of times, and something about it at the time just kind of like, I felt like everybody else playing had a bunch of knowledge that I didn't, so I felt kind of lost. And I guess maybe I was lazy or whatever, but I didn't take the time to educate myself on the lore and the systems and everything, and so I just kind of got like I felt a little alienated, and then I stepped back. I'd be curious to know if they this was like 5 or 6 years ago, I think. I'd be curious to know if you think that they've done a better job at what's the word for it, like onboarding new people, and kind of, because I'd love to check it out, but I just feel like there's so many, it's like World of Warcraft, right? There's so many expansion packs, there's so much history that I wouldn't even know where to start at this point. Chapter 515 is a scan of the end. Let's take a look at Chapter 515 1 second. Okay. Actually, I'm going to keep this one up. 1 second. Let's go to 515. Have you guys read the little blurbs and little messages from Kishimoto? I've only done it like once or twice when I was working on other things, but there's actually a lot of charming little stories. There's one, I can't remember which one it's in. I could probably go look it up. But there is one story about when Kishimoto was a little kid. He was off at a farm or something like that, and he was hanging out, and his mom was calling him from the other side of this field to go to go home, and he was so excited that he ran through the field and didn't look at the fact that it was full of cows, and he just wound up tripping and rolling down the hill and like falling into this massive pile of cow shit and getting stuck in it, and his poor mom had to come and like wrench him out of the pile of cow shit and then like just take him home covered in all that in the car, and he was just like really embarrassed or something like that. Oh yeah, so you're talking about this where he uses his poison to negate the Hashirama cells in yeah, the drug I developed to inhibit Hashirama's power. You won't use it on the Zetsu. So do you think that this has to be administered via the snake bite, or do you think he can also potentially disperse it in the air or something like that? Like, does he have to make physical contact with Obito, or does he can he deliver it through some other means? Either way, I mean, like, yeah, if especially when you combine this with like the fact that his body is so malleable and he can use like substitutions and everything like that, if Obito comes close to him, and even if he phases through him, like as long as the snake makes contact with him at all, like there's an opportunity for him to get in there and sink his venom in. Oh, I'm behind on comments, my bad. 1 sec. Warframe has a new story progression on an alternate dimension with humanoid Warframe people. Okay, that sounds cool. Yeah. I think they hit peak with New War back in 2021. You don't assume too much. The snakes will be enough. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I like to try it. Sometimes I get carried away, I guess, with like thinking of different opportunities. But that makes sense in and of itself, right? The snakes themselves are, I think, a valid win condition. At least for the Hashirama cells. I guess the one thing that I could say to that is that people with Hashirama cell appendages tend to be pretty callous about just chopping them off when they get bored with them or whatever. Like, doesn't he just crack his arm off when Fu or Torune, whoever it is, infect him with those poison beetles or whatever during the Danzo versus Sasuke fight? He just like rips his arm off and throws it away. So if he can do that in time, then it might sort of be a moot point, I guess. But especially since Kabuto has audio genjutsu, yeah, I mean that's crazy, right? Like when he pulls out all four of the sound 4 in sequence, or 5 of them, right? Because he does the sound 4 and then he pulls out Kimimaro as well, or does he not do Kimimaro? I might be making that up. It might just be the 4. But yeah, he uses Chains of Fantasia, the like Tayuya's genjutsu, and that manages to get both him and both Itachi and Sasuke at the same time, right? Where the hell is that fight? Is it 550 something is the Edo Itachi fight, so it'd be right after this. But anyway, yeah, actually, why don't I just look at my notes quick. Really wish we had gotten more time with Kimimaro. 585. An Edo Kimimaro, like we did get an Edo Kimimaro, but actually getting to see him fight would have been amazing. We don't really get to see him do anything. Oh yeah, okay, so he's manifesting Sakon. Interesting that he manifests Sakon but not Ukon. Robo, and he's doing them at the same time. That's crazy too. Or is he? Oh no, I'm sorry, I went too fast. So he brings out Sakon, and then Sakon like transforms into Jirobo. We can do them one at a time, but still in Kidomaru, yeah, like look at all this crazy shit. Oh, he does bring out Kimimaro. Yeah, yeah, okay. It's a Bracken dance. I have to assume that this is not sentient at all, right? This is not literally Kimimaro's soul or personality or anything. It's just his body, right? It's just his anatomy. Maybe through Kabuto's connection with the cursed seals or something like that. Because Kimimaro at this time is still fighting elsewhere as a Naruto Tensei, so his own consciousness, or soul rather, is still elsewhere. So he's just like manifesting the physical forms and the Kekkei Genkai. Do you think these are actually their literal bodies, just without the souls? Or do you think it's more like he's molding his body to resemble them? Is he like summoning their actual physical bodies? Like their corpses? I think that might actually make more sense, because in order to use Kekkei Genkai, you have to have the genetic material of the original. Although he does have this kunai here with, I'm guessing, a paper bomb, or it could be a command tag. Yeah, and then it looks like Kimimaro here, but then becomes Tayuya by the time the flute genjutsu gets used. Yeah, so this is interesting. It almost looks like one of his Edo Tensei command tags. So it kind of looks like he was about to put this in her head as an Edo Tensei, but she's not an Edo because she doesn't have the Edo Tensei's eyes. Oh, he's probably just trying to put it in Itachi or something to get control of him. Yeah, now that I've immobilized you, all that's left is to take you into me. Oh yeah, so he literally is just absorbing them all. He's absorbed all their bodies, but then their souls are not there. Something like that. Anyway, I'm kind of going on a bit of a tangent here, sorry. This is a really cool ability. Yeah, molding their shape and they perform the hand signs. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, their cells. He could have some of their cells for sure. I think it's implied his makeup has the components for the jutsu, but like Sukuna from JJK, he has them do the hand signs. Yep, that makes sense. I need to catch up on JJK. I got maybe 20 chapters into it and then I got distracted. It was really cool though. Have you guys finished it? Have you seen or read all the way to the end of the series? That tag is going to Itachi. Yep, that makes the most sense. Yep. Yeah, I think that's a part of the fight that maybe gets glossed over because of the focus being on, the Uchiha brothers and on Kabuto. But that's such a cool ability that gets shown. Okay, so with that being said, Kakuzu and Holidays, do you feel like we spent some time going over this? Do you feel like you got some good feedback, some helpful stuff? I think if we start to get into Obito, it could be fun. But I think it might also make sense now to switch over to the video or to switch over to the Chibaku Tensei stuff. Either way, I want to... Yeah, this is interesting. You get a good sense of humor here too. Yeah, so looking at all this stuff, I mean, everything makes sense. I might wind up disagreeing with some of it, but I think you've obviously done a good job compiling evidence and data, and the stuff that you're saying makes sense. And you've clearly found a way to, yeah, exactly. You've clearly found a way to emphasize parts of the fight that are maybe overlooked. I'm not going to spoil myself for the pain arguments though. I'm going to leave those alone. So yeah, well done. Good fucking work, man. I appreciate you sharing, and let me know how everything comes along. I'm happy to do a more nitpicky feedback if you want me to, but also for what it's worth, I think you've clearly done a lot of research and work on this, and you should feel confident in your ability at this point to how can I phrase it? To send what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, based on everything I've seen, if you just snapped your fingers and a video came out, was like an AI generated a video based on this as the input, it would be a good video because you have a solid foundation, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, here's another one, but Obito can hear people while in comedy. He actually responded to the Raikage while in comedy. Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think, doesn't it, I can never remember where the hell this piece of information is, but I think somewhere it says that when Obito is inside the Kamui dimension, he's linked to places in the outside world. So there are places around the outside world that he's marked, kind of similar to Minato's kunai, but obviously he doesn't need to use physical kunai. And then as long as those like marks are maintained, then as long as he's inside the Kamui dimension, he can potentially just go to those places whenever he wants. So his teleportation is not he can't just like arbitrarily teleport anywhere in the world. It has to be within the range of places that he's marked or experienced or something like that. But it makes sense, like he could just be sitting in the Kamui dimension, and if he maintains a link to those locations, then he has a way of, I guess, like gathering intel or spying on those places. That'd be cool. Yeah, no, the Yuito arguments make sense, and I still have like my skepticism about my approach to scaling, such as it is to try to look clearly at what actually happens on panel and to look at things in context as part of like a sequence of things. And my main objection to some of the stuff that comes out in debates is just people like clipping an individual thing. Like imagine in a debate somebody just took this clip, right, and says like, well, here we can clearly see that Kabuto is bisecting Itachi, so Kabuto is better than Itachi, so Kabuto would just blitz and one-shot Itachi. Now maybe that is all true, maybe you would agree with that, maybe you wouldn't, but just taking this one panel and not looking at everything else that's happening in this fight, to me, is unfortunate. And there are other parts in the fight where there's like a back and forth. You have to consider the fact that he's trying to use the Izanagi, he's holding back, or Izanami, so he's kind of holding back, he's not just trying to blitz and kill him. The Sasuke being present is also a variable in the fight, etc., etc., right? So there's a lot of variables to consider, and if you really want to explain the fight and understand the fight, like really get it and appreciate it, you have to take the time to do that, I think. And so I might wind up disagreeing with a particular thing you say about Yukito, but I'm not going to disagree with the fact that you've done that and tried to look at things in context, not just like taking one statement out of a data book and going like, well, it says mastery, so that means that she's a perfect Jinchuriki, right? Like you actually are like, well, here's more evidence that she and B were a duo and they trained together, and here's an instance of them being relative. So you start to put the pieces together like that, the argument is much more compelling. And even if I didn't agree with it, which I might actually agree with it, but even if I didn't, you've still presented your audience, your listeners, with a much better representative picture of everything that happened in the fight, and then they have a better grounds to start challenging you, or maybe not challenging, but just like engaging with you in a conversation or learning about it on their own, right? It's just much more positive at the end of the day. So appreciate that. Yeah, okay, so chapter 466, he marked where the summon was going to be killed. That'd be extreme playing on his end if he bluffs a lot. Yeah, let me take a look at that. And kudos for the scans. I've definitely gotten better, I think, about being able to retrieve scans over the years, but I am in awe of people like Sage of fuck. You have to pick a name that was such a tongue twister. But like, if you watch some of his streams, he's just like, anything that you point out, hey, do you remember that time where like Pak-kun and those other ninja dogs were like whizzing on a tree in the background in a completely irrelevant part of the story, and he'll just like pull it out immediately. So I'm not at that level yet, so I appreciate it when you guys can help me out with that. Appreciate it. Oh, you're talking about here? Yeah, it is kind of weird that he would just be able to like, that he would have this area marked and just kind of show up in time. So there might be more to it than that. I wonder if it's more like he has a connection to Sasuke, and because Sasuke is marked, he can just go to him and then open up the portal, something like that. Like maybe he's just in the Kamui dimension this whole time looking out at Sasuke. Or Sasuke also has the white Zetsu clones on him. And so maybe that kind of helps Toby maintain a connection. I don't know. I'm not a Kamui expert per se. I feel like this is one of those things that might have been mentioned here on Naruto Versity. And I know some of their stuff might have a little bit of headcanon to it. Like, I think Kakuzu God, I think we talked about this before, right? One sec. Right, just in case I forgot to mention it in the previous stream. So this page here, if you haven't read it, if we haven't talked about it, I would encourage you to check it out. The website is called Naruto Versity. Oh, you can see it up top there, right? And basically this guy makes the argument that Kakuzu's Jungu was originally intended to be used as a medical ninjutsu, and the person he stole it from the samurai village, wherever he was, the waterfall village, was a doctor, basically. Now, I don't know where the hell they're getting that information from. Part of the information comes from the fact that he can use it to stitch up like Deidara and Hidan's limbs. So it's being used in a medical context, and I think that's kind of what inspired this. But they don't mention data books or novels, so if this is coming from canon sources, then I don't know what those sources are. But it does, like, I kind of wish it were true, because it does provide a lot of interesting context for placing this otherwise almost like magical ability within the framework of the shinobi world. And I don't know where it is. I'll try to find it. I swear that there was something like that for Kamui, that there was another document that somebody had written that was kind of going into detail on how the Kamui lets Obito teleport around. Let me see. Godly eyes of Conquer Fate's Horizon, coercing into another dimension, a dojutsu that transfers objects into the dimension created with the manga Kyo Sharingan. In proportion to the amount of chakra the user holds, the possible transferable mass of the target is increased or decreased. A skilled user can also transfer his own body. Furthermore, there's also a subtle difference in the powers between the left and right eyes. The left eye hurls distant objects into the dimension by fixating on them, and the right eye unconsciously makes a body part slip through by transferring it. Additionally, by having both eyes, Susanoo appears and it is possible to apply Kamui's powers to its weapons. Objects are transferred immediately into the dimension. The distance of the right eye's effect is short. The ability to make the body slip through is the ability of Obito's own right eye. I see. Yeah, so that unfortunately doesn't tell us anything about the marking. So please don't like take my word for that at all. I could have just been misremembering that. I'll try and see if I could figure out where the hell I heard that. But yeah, in the meantime, just like don't take my word for that. But I do like the idea. I always like the idea that these abilities fit into a framework of like actual substance, if that makes sense. So the Kamui isn't just a magical ability that gets cast. It's specifically something that has the same rules and limitations as any other jutsu in the universe. So to teleport, to use space-time ninjutsu, usually you need something like a marking or a pact or like a blood sigil on the ground or something like that. So I would like it if there were something, or rather, let me rephrase. It would make sense if there was some kind of framework like that for the jutsu as well. But I don't know for sure if that's the case. Okay, let's see. At the end of the stream, it's kind of long with the repost. Oh, yeah. And I do have my Discord, like, I tried to set it up, like, the first 15 minutes or so of this stream were basically me failing to send Kakuzu and Holidays a friend request. But once I, like, figure out what the deal is there, you know, I'm happy to have people share things in the Discord server. If you ever want to, like, share scaling or scans or anything like that. Right now the Discord server has a population of 1, so I don't expect it to to be like a thriving community or anything. But if you want it to use it for like a scan dumpster or whatever, that's totally fine. Or to share files or whatever. Oh yeah. Sometimes Kakashi, I think, lets the heat of battle kind of get to him just a little bit. He has this reputation to uphold, right? I'm gonna get a drink real quick. 1 second. Well, he did. I think the reason for that is that he was just afraid that if Pain is already stabbing forward with the chakra rod, then maybe coming in from behind him might have just further pushed the rod into Eureka. Like, maybe he wouldn't have been able to get out of the way in time. Also, if Kakashi's coming from this direction, might have just been more expedient to do that. But I mean, the real answer is that it would have made the fight less fun, right? So. Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. You got it. That's the defeater. Right there. This right here. This is all you need to prove that Kakuzu beats Pain. Honestly. I mean, look, like, Kakashi died to, or like almost died to Kakuzu, right? He almost lost to him. And he's got 2 of these little things in his eyes. And Pain doesn't have any of those little things, whatever they even are, in his eyes. Kakashi's got a cool scar, which means he has more battle experience, and so he's obviously seen more stuff than whoever this guy is. He's got piercings or whatever. Like, that's not as cool as a scar. So obviously, if you just look at this, right, Kakashi is superior to Pain in every possible way, and Kakuzu beat the crap out of Kakashi. So Kakuzu is over Pain. Yep. Yeah, exactly. He should have just one-shot him and saved the village, but no, he had to brag. He had to, like, see if Pain wanted to join his fan club for the Mirror Ninja fan club. I like that interpretation. I think Kakashi does try to get the Asura path from behind a moment later, but I think he manages to dodge it because of the shared field of vision thing. Also, I want to know more about whatever this thing is. Like, I know what it's doing, like what the purpose of it is in the story, but I wish there was a data book entry. Maybe there is and I just missed it or whatever. Explaining like what the technology is that's being used here. Maybe we don't need to know, as it's like it's fantasy or whatever, but it's cool. Like, nobody ever talks about it. Oh, where's that Kakashi thing? Another thing that I've started doing is just looking for little things in the background, because a lot of times I think Kishimoto has a sense of humor about his background characters. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Let me see if I can find it. 1 sec. I want to look at the Kakashi feat real quick, and then obviously it's after Asura shows up. And then there's Danzo being an asshole. Should be right around here. I was sort of like half jokingly gonna do a video about like the goofy little faces in the background to Naruto, because I found a whole bunch of them. Yeah, so he's trying to unfortunately, Kakuzu God, we're gonna have to retcon that whole argument that we made, because when Kakashi attacked Kakuzu from behind, he tagged him and he got one of his hearts. And so now you can see he tries to attack Pain from behind, and he doesn't tag him, and he doesn't get one of his hearts. So Kakuzu is superior, or sorry, Pain is superior by that scaling. So we have to throw away our scaling from before, and now we have to go with Pain until we can find something else. But yeah, this is obviously joking, just to be clear. But yeah, he does manage to dodge this with a shared field of vision, which is notable. I wanted to go back to the Land of Waves real quick, because I think there is a panel, and you'll know when I find it. This is just a fun little thing that I started to notice as I was going and doing research for that last video. Here, there's a little bunny rabbit over there. That's not the guy I was looking for. I just want to take a moment to like appreciate the detail in this panel. Like, I could see getting this framed and put on my wall, honestly, like, especially if it was colored, because it's so, like, it's just this nice little quietly beautiful moment. It's really cool to see how in like early Naruto there was an emphasis on demonstrating that they did have technology that was like semi-modern, but also it had its own kind of like quirks and limitations. The detail in the poles being like some of them being leaning over, and this almost looks like medical tape or like either electrical tape or medical gauze or something. These look a little bit soft. It looks like they're, you know, they might almost be filled with a liquid or something like that. It's just he clearly put a lot of effort, Kishimoto did, into not just making fun and compelling characters, but also to just like crafting this world that had its own unique version of magic and technology that was clearly inspired by other things. But yeah, and this is cool too. This is our first glimpse of the like Team Minato over here. He's Kakashi, Rin, and Obito. And this is back in chapter 16. So, oh yeah, I think in one of the little blurbs, it does mention that Kishimoto had a plant in his office that was called Mr. Uki. I don't know what it means, but I guess this is a reference to that specifically. That's kind of cool. Yeah, definitely. If you're interested in that stuff and like the backstory, read through the little blurbs at the beginning of the chapters. Okay, yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about. 1 second. This fucking dragonfly with a human face and a mustache. It looks like what's his name, Freddie Mercury. Just shows up here for no reason. So canonically, Jesus Christ, canonically, there are insects with human heads in Naruto. And clearly, he's following Naruto around. But clearly they're being used for scouting. So these things are menaces. You have to watch out for them. If you actually look at these before chapter things, you'll notice a lot of these little characters just kind of being hidden around in the background. I don't know, maybe everybody already knows about them, but I thought it was kind of cool to discover them as I've been reading recently. So yeah. And then this little moment with Naruto eyeing the seagull over there. Oh, there's another one. I didn't notice that last time. Look, there's another. This fucking seagull over here also has a man's head. There's just men hiding in animals everywhere. Yeah, I miss this kind of like goofy, quirky style that Kishimoto's earlier works had. Unfortunately, didn't see that as much. I don't know if you guys have seen what's his name? Super Eye Patch Wolf did a video. Let me see, like this one. I haven't seen this in a while, but this video here is definitely worth checking out. He kind of goes over, I'll post it in chat. He goes over all of the kind of drama and intensity behind the scenes that Kishimoto endured while he was working on the series, and then talks about like some of the peaks, some of the most impressive fights, some of the best animation, and then also he talks about things about like how originally in the early parts of the series, characters, like you can see that Lee has like, he's wearing the headband around his belt, and Sakura wears it as an actual, almost like an actual, not a headband, but like a hair piece to hold her hair back in. And every character had like a somewhat unique way of displaying their headband. And Neji goes right on his forehead, but there's a bit of like extra lore to it because there's the manji behind it. Shikamaru has it on his arm over here. And then by the end of the series, every character is just wearing the exact same outfit. They're displaying, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but pretty much everybody in the war has the exact same outfit. They're displaying their things on the exact same part of their body. Like they're just wearing the headbands normally. And so in order to support all of these different characters being involved in all these massive events, they had to, just for time and like economy, they had to, shorten. This is also, be careful where you pause because you might run into something like this. But yeah, they just wind up having to oversimplify a lot of things and a lot was lost. So no need for me to summarize the whole video or whatever, but highly recommend it. Very well made and kind of goes over some of the stuff that I'm talking about now. So yeah, 8 years ago. Yeah, it's been a long time. He's still around. He's still doing stuff. Although his content has taken a bit of a different turn. But I would also recommend, like, yeah, I saw this one recently. I don't know anything about wrestling or wrestling. Fuck, I don't know anything about boxing. I mean, I used to do some like boxing gym stuff a while ago, but a friend and I watched the Jake Paul Mike Tyson thing out of morbid curiosity, and I was just like really confused. It's really weird. And then he kind of breaks down, like, even if you don't know anything about combat sports, like, he breaks down the whole history behind it, and I found it really interesting, even though I didn't know anything about it. Bunch of stuff here. If you're, I mean, I'm assuming that you guys like anime and manga, because consider checking out his my favorite things videos. Every quarter, like 4 times a year, he'll make a compilation video of the favorite things that he's consumed recently, and that always includes manga and anime. You can see manga and anime. You can see that, like, Delicious in Dungeon was on his list recently, which I also recommend. Different vibes from Naruto, obviously, but it's still a lot of fun. And Dragon Ball, stuff like that. He recommended Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which is one of my favorite anime at this point, especially of the past 5 years. I found out about Chainsaw Man through him. So yeah, definitely check his channel out. He's got a lot of really cool stuff on here. Yeah, we found the perfect argument why Yukito is perfect in Shirky. Okay, cool. Yeah, lay it on me. What do you think? Excuse me. Yeah, let me know what you think about that, and then while you type that out, I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick, and then since it's probably about the halfway point of the stream, I'm gonna go back to reacting to the video in a second. So I'll take a quick break and I'll be right back, and then we'll get into that. Okay, let's see here. Yep. Okay. Oh, I see. Let's see. When Naruto goes to train with B, we see Maratabi in a drawing kind of performing a Bijuu Bum. Yep. Actually, I was looking at that the other day. I think it has a slightly different look to it, doesn't it? It's got, like, hers has little fire, like, flames on top, and B's is just the ball. I was wondering if that was meant to kind of imply that Yukito's, like, main powerful attack is her fire breath or something like that. Yeah, so she's got, like, her Bijuu bombs, I think, had these little flames on top. And I think Yuki's don't, maybe? Let me see, where was it? Probably at the end of this chapter, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if this matters at all, but it is kind of cool to see that Yuki's Bijuu bombs don't have that fire effect on them, don't appear to anyway, at least in this shot. And then Yukito's do. So I wonder if Maratabi is just more known for the fire wraith attack, and Yuki is more known for the Bichu bomb. I mean, obviously they can both do Bichu bombs, but it's kind of cool that this is that it's like unique for Maratabi, if that makes sense. But anyway, we see Maratabi in a drawing kind of performing a Bichu bomb. B says selected Jinchuriki comes here to talk and control their Bichu since she trained hard to seek control, so she trained there. Yep. Therefore, she managed to befriend with Two Tails. So, okay, let me read this for a little bit. Sacred place where those selected as Jinchuriki have long ago can speak with your Biju in a special way. Yep. Your heart that's sincere. Yes. I think this is all kind of supporting your position. But I have a follow-up thing. I just wanted to... There's something... Oh, it's got to be at the end of the fight. I wanted to look for the panel specifically where you see the diagram of the little tug-of-war thing. Also, I really dislike this whole thing with Kushina. Probably in the minority there. But the Minato having his chakra and his consciousness inside Naruto and watching everything he did was a little weird. But it was okay once. But then doing it again, I don't know. It's also, it's like weird that like both of his parents are inside his body and are sentient and can see everything he does. And also Kurama can too. So like every time like Naruto like reads a dirty magazine or like takes it, like eats the disgusting overdue milk or whatever you call it, like the expired milk, and then has like a terrible time in the bathroom, like Kurama and his parents are just sitting there like kind of like awkwardly staring at the floor, pretending not to notice what Naruto's doing. It's gotta be when Kurama says, "I'm gonna go back inside Naruto after everything that happens." It's so bizarre to me. If they have to see all of that, like hopefully they can just like turn off the TV, so to speak, and not have to be connected to everything that's going on in his life. There's so many awkward situations that would come out of that, and just the tip of the iceberg, right? Anyway, maybe it's one of those things where we don't need to overthink it. Have fun with it. Okay, I'm trying to find that one thing. Because I think, like, I think it's fair to say that Yugito is a really good Jinchuriki. And she's really, really good at being a Jinchuriki. And she can use her Jinchuriki in an advanced way. Look at Montabi's face over here. And that's probably enough. Yeah, it might be... It's probably during the war arc. Yeah, my bad. So that scan's going to be during the war arc. I won't waste your time like going through all that to try to find it. Unless I can... Look at my notes real quick. Parameter... Change... Probably not. Oh, wait, yeah, hang on. 519. It was close. I guess technically all of this is during the war arc. Okay. There's more of Yuki. Okay. Undergo Biju transformation. That's your last step. Okay. Visualize your Biju. So, technically speaking, Naruto does do a Biju transformation here. It's just not very good. Okay, so here's something that could potentially actually help your position, but also could be something that you could dispute or look into more. Okay, so Gyuki says, well, it's not like you became chummy with Ninetales, so I guess Biju transformation is an utter failure. So you could look at that and say, okay, since Maratabi, since Yugito transformed into Maratabi, and this is specifically happening in the same place that they trained, and Gyuki is right there, and he's the one telling him this, so he should know what what Yugito went through and all that. You could look at this and say, Gyuki is saying that in order to transform into your Bichu, you have to become chummy with them. But you could potentially counter that by saying Gaara and Shukaku were not friends at all back in part 1. But Gaara was still able to do a not a perfect transformation. Gamabunta calls it perfect possession, and then I think the wiki and the databooks call it Biju mode, or Biju transformation. So let's just say transformation, right? He does a full transformation into Shikaku's body, gives over his consciousness, and they're not friends, they're not chummy, they don't have any kind of relationship like this. So the alternate interpretation is like Yuki is saying, for you, Naruto, to specifically transform into the Nine Tails, given the way he is, you guys are going to need to work something out. And maybe one thing he can do is to achieve more control and dominance over Kurama over time. Like if he does this over and over again over time, he'll just get Kurama to do what he wants eventually, and get better at controlling it. Because he is sort of able to do it. Like this is his first attempt, it's his first try at doing this, and he can still turn himself into a fox and manifest Nine Tails. So you could argue that, okay, if he stays here for like 5 years and he keeps doing this, even if Kurama doesn't like him and doesn't cooperate, he'll get better at it just through practice. But you could also say that Yuki is saying that, like, no, you're never going to really achieve your full peak of the transformation unless you do this, unless you get to be friends with Kurama. But you could also say, well, Maratabi was way smaller when he fought Yukito, when he and Yukito fought Kakuzu and Hidan, than Maratabi was in the war when he was fighting Madara. So maybe Yukito's transformation into Maratabi wasn't actually perfect. Maybe it was actually kind of like this. She was able to do it much, much better than this, but she never manifested Maratabi's full strength and full power because he wasn't full size at that point. So, not saying you have to believe any of that stuff, take it for granted, but those are potentially different angles you could look at it, and you can see how one little statement like this can actually like spiral off into a lot of different places as a topic of conversation. Let's see. It's right here. Yeah. So while you're using Biju Chakra mode, Ninetales is siphoning away your chakra because you're temporarily shelving Naruto Chakra in order to use Ninetales Chakra. And obviously, if he drains Naruto Chakra to 0, you're off to the afterlife. How come Octopops is always okay? Naruto, you've merely taken Ninetales Chakra from him, not truly tamed him. B and I used to be like that long ago, fighting over each other's chakra. And I wouldn't advise using Shadow Doppelgangers in Biju Chakra mode. Ninetales, will be drained instantly and die. Where does he say? Yes, here we go. So normally you'd negotiate with your Biju and agree on the parameters of the chakra exchange. Not did I ever see Ninetales doing that. So the way that Yuki is describing it here, agreeing on the parameters of the chakra exchange, you could imagine a situation where Yukito and Maratabi have been coexisting for a while, and Yukito says, look, I'm gonna take your chakra. We have to live with each other. We just have to deal with each other. Just give me this amount of yours, and then I'll give you this amount of mine, and that we don't have to like fight. We don't have to do this tug of war every single time. And that Maratabi would be like, okay, fine, fuck, just leave me alone, right? And so she gets enough chakra, and she's good enough with that chakra to be able to transform, but it's not quite the same as the level of synergy and friendship and camaraderie that we see between Yuki and B. So that's where I think the defining line between a perfect Jinchuriki is. At the end of the day, though, what really matters is the power. When we're talking about power scaling videos or like versus battles, matchups, whatever, what matters is the actual power, the actual combat feats and potential of the characters. It doesn't really matter if they're technically a perfect Jinchuriki or whatever, as much as it matters, like, you could have a character who is not a perfect Jinchuriki at all. It's like a basement tier Jinchuriki, but is just so powerful that it doesn't matter, versus a character who is a perfect Jinchuriki extreme plus, but is just really like their power ceiling is so low that it doesn't matter, right? It comes down to what the actual individual can literally do. Hope that seems fair. I gotta catch up. So when Naruto goes to train with B, we see, oh yeah, control, so she's trained there. Oh, yep. Okay, that makes sense. Therefore, she managed to be friend with the Two Tails. I disagree. Well, I don't necessarily even disagree. I just think that's still open to interpretation. She can use jutsu related to her Biju and transform quickly into it. That is true, although I will say that Gaara can also do that to a lesser extent. Obviously, it's not the same, but with Yugito being a like an older and more experienced Jinchuriki, and also one who, like, the Sand Village kind of doesn't want anything to do with Gaara and like actively tries to kill him, but it seems like in Kumogakure they actively view their Biju as weapons, yes, but as very important commodities, and so are like actively training them, actively involved in teaching them. I mean, they have this sanctuary in the first place, which is not something that Gaara has access to. They clearly have a tradition and a history of trying to manage the Biju. So I think it's more of a part of their culture. So it kind of makes sense that Yugito would just be more proficient by the time she was an adult than Gaara when he was a kid. She can use just to relate to her Biju. Yep. But we know Yugito compared to Gaara, she trained very hard, so it's more an argument for Yugito. No. Yeah, I totally agree. It's an argument for Yugito's overall proficiency and skill. I just think that, like, put it this way. If Maratabi hates Yugito and refuses to work with her and thinks that she sucks and that she has bad taste in music and a terrible haircut and just won't respect her at all, and Yugito manages to still gain control and mastery over the chakra that he has, that's actually in a way more impressive than Maratabi just being like, hey, I like you, I'm just going to give you all my chakra for free, right? When we're talking about the overall chakra output, obviously a perfect Jinchuriki who's freely sharing all of their chakra with their Biju is going to have more chakra, and they're going to be more powerful that way. But if you're just talking about like Yugito as a person, Yugito as an individual human fighter, the stronger and more stubborn and less complacent her Biju is, the more impressive it is for her as a person to gain control over the Biju, if that makes sense. So I guess, like, it kind of depends on how you want to look at things. Are you just looking for, like, to find the maximum amount of power that the character can output? If that's the case, then being a perfect Jinchuriki is more impressive because it means more chakra. But if you're trying to emphasize just how fucking cool Yugito is, how skilled and talented and hardworking she is, then her mastering her Biju chakra without becoming a perfect Jinchuriki is actually more of a feat for her strength and skill, maybe less of a strength for her like interpersonal, like social skills, I guess. But still, you know, there's different ways to look at it, is what I'm saying. Okay. By the way, Yugito has it easier to control the 2 tails versus Naruto controlling the 9 tails transformation. 542. Okay, let's take a look at that. Curious, how do you, oh, I remember this, yeah. Doesn't one of the characters say, like, oh, that's only the 2 tails, the 8 tails is going to be even harder, or something like that? Anything yet? Not compatible either. That's okay. Yeah, the thing you're the same. That's not true. Yeah, it's a dire situation being a Jinchuriki. It feels like someone's opened a hole in your heart. The Biju uses your weakened heart to run amok. It is kind of weird to think of Gyuki as doing that, as like exploiting the darkness and the void in your heart and then running amok. But I guess, like, because we're so used to Gyuki being so friendly, it's really weird to think of him as like this monster that's rampaging and slaughtering people. But I guess that's just a more testament to Killer Bee's ability to befriend them. But none of those things are actually truly necessary to become a Jinchuriki. Plug the hole in your heart, yeah. Yeah, that's... I mean, I guess... So this makes me kind of think that, like... This is just adding more context to the idea that being a perfect Jinchuriki isn't just about your physical skill. It's also about your emotional connection. And I wish we knew more about Yukito, because I like the idea that she... Yeah, I like this story. I don't know if it's true, but I like the idea that Yukito was... Like, she did become friends with Maratabi, and then that inspired B. Because it's... Given how, like, kind and empathetic and chill B is, it kind of makes more sense for him to be like, oh, Yukito got to be friends with her Biju. I find that inspiring. I want to do that too. As opposed to Yukito like keeps her Biju on a fucking leash and like smacks it if it doesn't listen to her and just like tells it what to do like an asshole. I want to be like her, right? That doesn't really fit the narrative as much. So you can make a narrative argument and just say that like that was part of it. Oh yeah, here we go. 8 tails is much more difficult to contain than 2 tails. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally fine. I think it's pretty clearly implied that the 8 like Yuki and B are at least strong enough to go up against any of the other Biju Jinchuriki combinations and beat them, and also probably in a straight up fight, especially if they're not Edo Tensei, to go up against multiple ones of them and win. His power level is just big good. Yep. I also use Monotabi's character in the war arc when she's with other Jinchuriki. She seems very nice and mature. Yeah, she is very, very refined, very polite. Yes, just that dignity of a cat. Like Yukito and B weren't a duo because we're the only Jinchuriki is a valid argument too. Because village citizens tend to hate them. Yeah, that's true. They probably would have bonded over that. Both can understand each other and be friends. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's part of why B was so inspired by her, right? It was in part because she decided to, or like she was able to achieve her connection with her Biju despite, or sorry, like to achieve mastery and to earn a name for herself despite all of the scorn. And I think B would have seen that and would have really appreciated that. It sucks that we never got to see them together, like despite all that, right? Like why don't we get a scene with the two of them? But I guess it is worth noting that this I forget this person's name, but this Jinchuriki has died, and it's not like their body just got thrown in a gutter somewhere. Right? There's a funeral. There seems to be, even the leader of the village is there. They're all wearing black. There's all these flowers. So despite the fact that the Jinchuriki are treated with scorn, there's also some respect, there's also some ceremony, there's also love for them. So it's perhaps a little bit less... I find it very hard to imagine that they would have had this kind of a funeral for Gaara if he died when he was a kid, like a teenager, and the Jinchuriki, the Shikaku passed to somebody else, especially since the Kazekage was attempting to assassinate him. So yeah. B is very sad when he saw Yukito as in Naruto Tensei, and Yuki also said he could have been in her place. That could. Yeah, I think part of what B was upset about, right, was also just the fact that their bodies had been kind of messed up and like implanted with the where is that something around there? Yep. That they were implanted with the gross. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was trying to say that I think B looks at the way that their bodies have been kind of mutilated and desecrated with the implantation of other people's eyes, and also the fact that they're being brought back as corpses. He's probably kind of disgusted by it too, right? They're robbed of their lives, turned into pawns, and then had those disgusting things implanted into them. Poor Yukito. I think that's Yuki talking, because his lettering is different, right? He's got the bolder kind of like slanted type face. Oh no, and he says they've tortured her. I feel rage and grief, but me not getting these creepy eyes is still a relief. He's a little bit of an asshole sometimes, but yeah. And then of course there's the little like fan service moment where he's like checking her out while they're fighting, which is like, okay, good job, stay classy, buddy. But no, I think I see what you mean. Like he obviously cares. I think he also tries to hide his emotions, or like when he's feeling upset, he tends to just turn that into rap, and stay positive. So he could be really shaken under the surface, but still just trying to find the levity in it. Yes. If Yukito could be captured, so could he. Yeah, I think. I mean, it's conceivable that both of them could be. But I think it'd be a lot harder for Killer B potentially. I mean, like, I'm not saying you can't have a debate about this or you can't argue against this. I think there's a pretty clear implication that B plus Yuki is stronger than Yukito and Maratabi, but part of why I come to that conclusion is just because we have more time with that latter matchup. They have more fights and we see them do more cool shit. And the problem with Yukito is that her big fight is almost entirely off screen, and at least one of the people she fights doesn't have amazing scaling, Hidan, and so we're just not given a ton of data. Now, granted, like, Yukito obviously does have a lot of stuff that she does over the course of these fights, but again, she's enhanced with the 2 Sharingan. She has infinite stamina, infinite health regeneration, and she's attacking in combination with the other 5 Jinchuriki. And she's also, like, her Biju is no longer stored inside her behind a seal, right? The Biju are all inside the Geto Mazo, the Geto statue, and they're being, like, the chakra rod here isn't a connection to Obito, it's a connection to the Geto Mazo, and the Biju chakra can be fed into them through the Geto Mazo according to Obito's whims. So there's just, like, so many variables in this fight that make it kind of difficult to get an accurate translation of these feats going back to the previous fight. So you can definitely do it. There's plenty of information there, and if you're patient, maybe more patient than I, you can actually go through it and figure it out. It's a lot, and it's unfortunate that we didn't get a chance to spend more time with Yukito previously. B was feeling Yukito and thinks she's hot. Yeah, that's true. He does have a habit of having his eyes gravitate to certain places. First databook Jutsu file states something to the effect of mastering levels to techniques. Of course, this is from way before Jinchurikis was here. Yep. Yeah, there was didn't it say that, like, the ranks of given jutsus are proportional to how difficult they are to learn? Like, that's part of it or something like that. Yeah. Oh, so Alhurt, I don't know if you probably might have seen this in my video buried in with all the other stuff, but this is Killer B's jutsu. This is the one that he uses to seal all the Jinchuriki. It's a few chapters later. It's the one where he, like, barfs out the ink from Gyuki's mouth and then tries to restrain all of them. I think it's literally, like, in this next chapter. So if I can just see it here, I might just oh yeah, it's right before this, right? Because actually I just probably skipped over it because it's right before yeah, it's right after the Biju tail twister. Alright, so this thing over here where he makes ink clones of himself and then they grab onto them and then they're supposed to solidify and they're all restrained, right? Pretty cool technique, pretty awesome. And then they get, like, splurched up. Now, let's go read the description. How to get demonetized. Sealing technique, octopus hold, Fuin Jutsu, octopus hold, right? I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Members get laid before the final moments. It is impossible to escape this torture technique. A Fuin Jutsu made for large-scale military applications, being able to seal 1,000 enemies immediately. Black clones flank and envelop enemies, trapping them in a peculiar way. Once the jutsu is completed, the situation is resolved, with the enemies being sealed in a black mass. Several ink clones hold the target. In just 3 seconds, the target's body is completely coated with paint. Moving under these circumstances is impossible. So yeah, Killer B has a torture technique where he has people get laid and traps them in a peculiar way. So you know, just gonna leave that there, worth considering. It's a weird taste. Yeah, I do think that they were close for sure. I think that's very well established. You can just say that Yuki, after long exposure to their relationship, picked up on human connection to some extent. Even Kurama, who doesn't care for things other than himself, checked people. Yeah, that's true. I think Kurama probably cares more than he wants to let on. At least, especially after staying within Naruto for a while. because otherwise his transition from being like a rampaging murder monster to like basically tearing up and saying like that's the Naruto I know when he uh finally like saves Son Goku or whatever. It's a very abrupt shift if there was no goodness in him before that, right? look at Naruto. I'm sorry. I know that Ikemoto has his own style and it's perfectly valid and perfectly legit, but sometimes like his facial expressions are just, they just kind of catch me off guard. The exciting ninja comic Naruto. I give him a lot of credit for like his style overall, but yeah, it's really weird. Like whenever this came out, like reading through it and seeing this and being like, that's a cool fan interpretation of Naruto. Naruto doesn't look anything like that, and I can never imagine Naruto looking like that for real. But it's a cool bit of fan art, and then this is what the series looks like now. It's I don't want to dunk on Ikemoto's style. I'm not saying that he's a bad artist. I'm not. But the stylistic difference is just so stark, you know. I mentioned the mastery thing because it may just explain that her definition of mastery may just mean she got a level of control, but not necessarily perfect or even high level control to beat you. Yeah, I think that's legitimate, right? It's there are different ways to interpret the term control, and especially with that thing with Danzo, where I know we talked about this before, but like Danzo's perspective is that the term control can mean your Hashirama and you're using wood style, your Madara and you're using your like Mangekyo, your B and you're using friendship, or your Yagura doing whatever the fuck Yagura does. So according to an in-universe explanation that we get for this, control can mean different things, or like it can manifest in different ways and be applied in different ways. And as long as that's the case, you know, you can say that B has control over Gyuki's chakra, but he doesn't have control over, like, he's not like dominating Gyuki in the same way that Madara was doing to Kurama, stuff like that, right? So there's room for nuance, there's room for interpretation. Let's see, like, you know, her transformation, which is stated that she gave herself over to Maratabi, which is something that even Naruto himself did with both. Yeah, that's a good point. I kept using the freaking Gaara example because I think that's what he does. Like in the fight against like during Konoha Crush, I think he just gives himself over to Shikaku and lets him run rampant. I hadn't thought about the connection with Naruto because that's it's less of a voluntary thing. It's like the rage that's bubbling up inside him. But technically speaking, yeah, that is the same thing. He's allowing Kurama... No, right, he goes inside. Like, he's in that little mental representation of Kurama inside his heart or whatever. And then he goes up and he either, like, goes inside the cage and gets the infusion of chakra from him, or he, like, tears the seal off or whatever. So, yeah, there's definitely an argument there that's what's happening with Naruto, too. I think that must be in the Orochimaru fight, right? Is that in 290 or something? I can find the panel I'm talking about. We just talked about this recently, I think. It was a really cool panel. Oh no, I think this is the one. Yeah, I mentioned this on the stream like a while ago, so I might as well just bring it up while I'm here. But this is the panel I was talking about a little while ago, where Naruto's like beastly eye gets paralleled directly with Orochimaru's. I fucking love this. This is so cool. And then the scream here, God, like I don't hate the way that Kurama was represented later in the series, but just the sheer power and terror and rage, and just the way that like his outline is portrayed here, you can just feel it. Feels like the page is screaming at you. It's so terrifying. And then Orochimaru just melts away, and then the shading that gets used here too. This looks like so much more, I don't know, realistic or something. It's so much grittier, so much detail. It almost looks like something out of like Berserk as opposed to Naruto. So much ferocity that's conveyed in that I really appreciate. I think the thing I was thinking of, I don't know if we need to go through it, but it was maybe in the Final Valley fight where, yeah, not this one. It's coming up though. Let me look for it real quick because it is pretty cool. I need to just start making a more detailed like map of the whatchamacallit, of the different feats and fights and chapters and stuff like that. I thought about that, making like a big spreadsheet, or not a spreadsheet, like a flow chart with some of the more major fights, make it easier to find stuff. Maybe like tags might just be enough. This too. This is incredible. This wasn't what I was thinking of either, but oh my god, this artwork is just so like stunning. Yeah, I guess I can't find it. I don't want to waste too much time. Well, there's Akamaru. I love this panel too. God, there's so much creative, cool shit just like hidden throughout these the manga. The thing I was thinking of, maybe you know what I'm talking about, is like Naruto gets depressed or whatever, like he's upset in the middle of a fight and he's crestfallen, and then you see the like inner dimension where he's going up to Kurama, and Kurama's behind the gate, and Naruto just kind of like floats over to him, and then Kurama does this thing where he, yeah, it's not this, but it's something like this, where he just like infuses him with chakra almost. It could be during the pain fight. Let me see. Sometimes it's fun to go on these little tangents, as long as you don't think it's too much of a waste of time. But I kind of like doing a little scavenger hunts or whatnot. Would have been before the Six Tails, right? Yeah, this might be it, like after Hinata dies. About people try to look at that Biju bomb, like Pain surviving the Biju bomb and shit, and say, oh, it doesn't count, it was only an island level Biju bomb, so wait. This, I don't know. I found another one. Is this supposed to be Sasuke? No, this is Sasuke with the thick lips. I don't even know who that is. Oh, this is Minato because of his cloak, right? And this is Hidan, I guess. I mean, I'm sorry, like I don't mean to be a jerk or anything. It's not like this is bad art per se, but it's just like the expressions are so weird. This is what happened to Minato. Anyway, I think, you know what? I think it's just because I'm used to seeing them rendered in a certain way. It's not this one either. Yeah, damn it. I'm sorry to waste everybody's time with this. I was hoping to find that panel because it's really cool. But it's like Kurama has this like claws extended out, and Naruto's kind of like gently floating over to him, and it just like infuses him with rage or whatever. Anyway, let me get back to the comments here. Naruto explains to Sage Toads that he asked the fox to do it for him. Oh, I see. So he was like specifically requesting Kurama to take over. That makes sense then. Even in emotional upheaval, both are looking to kill their targets. That's true. Yeah. Killing intent. Who was it that I was video that I was looking at recently where they were explaining that killing intent is explicitly described in one of the data books to amp your power or to affect your power, something like that. Yukito had more control over her emotion, unlike Naruto in both those instances. That might be true. I think it's potentially reasonable to expect that, especially since when she transforms, she's still actively talking, right? She's like, I lured you two in here, and attacks while in that state, as opposed to Naruto like losing consciousness and not even remembering shit later. The intent is kill, and they both gave themselves over to their respective beasts to accomplish it. I will say that Gaara was pretty much, I think, expecting for everybody there to be dead and in pieces by the time he woke up. Not exactly. Not sure what that's about. Sorry. Why would Yukito transform to her full Biju state if she cannot go back? Oh, in her village. I don't know if it's possible that she can go in and out of it. yeah, that might be the case. We don't see her do a partial transformation or just like let one tail out at the time, but maybe Matatabi just knows to like behave himself afterwards or something. Let's go back in her village. Because you have no control. Yeah, you can't measure the level of control with her Biju without looping back to the perfect mastery statement. Like, you can prove she talks with her Biju because the war arc replies to it. Yeah, and I think there's in the anime, I couldn't even find the scene because it's just something that's mentioned briefly. I don't even know if we even see it happen on screen, but apparently in the anime there's an episode where Naruto has to go collect paw prints or something. Like, he has to go find cats, or maybe it's Sasuke who has to do it. Sasuke would make more sense because like the Uchiha have those ninja cats, and he has to go get like paw prints and get like the paw prints and bring them back to the cat granny. And one of the ones he has to get would have been Yukito's, but she says Yukito already got me the one from Matatabi or something like that, right? Like, you can look it up on Yukito's page, I think. And so people look at that and say that maybe he had enough control over him to just be able to bust him out and then like put him back in her pocket like a Pokemon. But again, like, Pokemon aren't necessarily friends. I mean, like, Pikachu or maybe that's a good example, right? Like, I haven't seen Pokemon in forever, but like, doesn't Ash become friends with Pikachu, and then he like does whatever he says and they work really well together, but then like his Charizard or whatever won't listen to him, and he's still really powerful, but it's not until like they actually start collaborating as a team that he really gets the full power or something like that. Yeah, okay, so Yukito didn't, so take this with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if this is accurate, but while Yukito didn't have full control over the Two Tails, she had complete control over the transformation and how much of its chakra she would use. This control was precise enough that she was able to provide Matatabi's paw print for the paw encyclopedia. And that's in Shippuden 189. So I watched that episode, and I don't, or at least I skimmed through it, and I don't remember seeing that actually happen. I think it's literally just something that's mentioned off screen. But you know, it's an additional piece of data. It's anime versus manga, but it's, you know, something to consider. I'm not saying he has to have control, but if that's enough for even a lack of mastery character to do the same as one who supposedly has mastery, it brings her case in question. Yeah, that's fair. Like I said, I think there's plenty of room to kind of go back and forth on it. My only real objection personally, and like, not that you guys have to agree with this per se, but my only objection really is when people double down and say like, I'm going to take this one line, this one sentence, and I'm going to use it literally, and there can be no other explanation because I'm going to just accept this literally at face value. That shit gets annoying, but that's not what you guys are doing. You're looking at it in the context of multiple pieces of information from multiple different angles. So yeah, I don't have a problem with any of that. He and Yukito were friends. They both trained in the same place to control their Biju. Even Yuki felt sad for Yukito. Yuki was demonic in the back. Could feel something for her. Yeah, that's true. I think it's pretty clear. You know, I agree with you that they developed a kind of camaraderie and affection even towards each other. Yuki also just seems to be a bit of a soft touch by that time in the war, which is kind of endearing. Two-tail less complicated to contain. Can't we assume Yukito talk with her Biju too? I mean, I think she must have had to have had a conversation. They must have at least talked, because specifically when they go into the training space, they what was that chapter? 1 second. Is it 466? No, that was the other one that you shared. 542. I'm pretty sure he does specifically say, hey, you're going in here to talk to your Biju. Oh no, this is that one. Sorry, I'm misremembering the location, but yeah, this is the Raikage fight. But yeah, like they definitely had to have had a conversation at some point. I don't disagree with that. I do think that it's technically true that Naruto and Kurama also had a conversation, right? And their conversation didn't really go very well or lead to Naruto just getting KCM for free. So, yeah. Let me catch up. To elaborate on Naruto's first case, he had days to contemplate the subject of what if we run into Orochimaru. Not inherently, especially in the war arc, the Jinchuriki explained that's their first time talking together. Oh, yeah, when they're all in that, like, shared space, that's true. I don't think they've necessarily... Well, here's the thing with that, though. The way that that's explained later is that Hagoromo gives them that plane so that they will always be in touch with one another. So I think, maybe I'm off base here, but I think the implication there is that the Biju can talk to each other whenever they want to, and maybe they don't, but if they get bored or whatever, they can all just go hang out in that inner plane and can stay in contact with one another if they feel like it. So, I mean, the fact that Kurama says when B and Naruto are talking about Naruto going into KCM2 for the first time, I think Gyuki or Kurama says, like, hey, Yuki, you and B are the only ones who have ever done this. You're a unique case. I'm not gonna do, like, just give myself over and, like, wag my tails for Naruto. Like, I have more pride than that, right? So you could take that as Kurama just talking shit or whatever, or you could look at that as, okay, well, if all of the Jinchuriki and Biju, or the Biju at least, are connected on the ethereal plane and they can talk to one another, they can check in on one another, because they're all technically a part of the Ten Tails, like they're all just divisions of that same thing, so they're all connected, then maybe Kurama does actually know, like he's been watching or like at least checking their Twitter feed basically every once in a while and noticing whether or not they've achieved like friendship with their Biju. He's like, Yuki, you're the fucking weird one here. You're the only one who actually wants to get along with your human. So, is that the only point of what the statement can mean, though? Yeah, no, I think it can be interpreted in different things. Easily, or just to begrudge one another. Yeah, they might just kind of show up because they have to do like their quarterly report or whatever, and not really get along. I mean, obviously, Shikaku. Yuki made it sound like Shikaku and Kurama kind of hate each other. Because of Kurama's attitude, like elitist attitude or whatever. Replacing a lot of assumptions on thinking Yuto made peace with her to be in perfect sync with each other. There's more example to say she didn't. Okay. I mean, like, just for the record, guys, I think it's okay to disagree about that. As long as like nobody's being a dick and saying like this is what you have to believe or like enforcing it. But yeah, like my personal feeling is that I don't want to say it doesn't matter. What's the right phrase for it? That it's not the linchpin of the debate, or it's not like the cornerstone or whatever, because she could, cause like I was trying to say before, you could either look at it as she's incredibly powerful because she has perfect connection with Maratabi and they work together as perfect Jinchuriki pair, or you can say that despite the fact that Maratabi wouldn't play ball, Yukito was so good that basically was able to still achieve a high level of mastery. And that means Yukito is even cooler than somebody who would have gotten it for free. Like, imagine if Rin became friends with, I think Isobu was supposed to go into Rin, right? So imagine that, like, Rin and Isobu became friends right away, and then she just got all of Isobu's chakra and could go into, like, a full Biju transformation mode at age, like, 12 or 14 or whatever she was. And she got it that easily. That wouldn't necessarily make her a better shinobi than Yukito. It wouldn't mean that she could win in a fight against Yukito. Maybe Yukito, being an imperfect Jinchuriki, could still beat Rin because she's just that much better, even though she doesn't have that massive power boost that would come from having all the chakra, right? So either way, you could look at either of them as a feat for Yukito, depending on your perspective. Yeah, so what it kind of comes down to is a semantic definition difference between the term mastery and control and stuff like that. Okay, so we can definitely keep talking about this. Feel free to add any additional comments. Excuse me, additional comments you have. Definitely the Yukito perfect Jinchuriki thing is something that I think is a great, like, the word for it, like a litmus test for Naruto debates in that the way that people talk about it kind of reveals a lot about the way that they no, that's not what I'm trying to say. Hang on, let me think. If you take arguments about Yugito being a perfect Jinchuriki as a slice of like an example of a classic Naruto debate argument or something like that, there's so much that you can talk about from that claim that I think it's a great thing to kind of come back to use as an example of some of the challenges of talking about Naruto online in the first place, because we're left with just enough information that the temptation is to take statements literally and just kind of run with that, but enough vague information that's peripheral to that to challenge some of the like to challenge things, but not enough to like definitively say, okay, this is the proof over here, that's the proof over there. It's ambiguous and open-ended, and but not in like a way that it kind of falls into like devolves into totally headcanon. You can make arguments based on like actual evidence and research and all that are coming directly off the panel, for lack of a better phrase. But also there's like the challenge of trying to like wade through all of the different scraps of information and put together, it's like putting together a puzzle when you don't have all the pieces, basically, and then figuring out what you're going to do to fill in the spaces with the missing pieces. Anyway, with that all being said, I think I would like to take a little bit of time to go back to the Brutal Honesty video. Maybe I should plan to have like a chat stream, like a casual hangout stream, and then like a more focused stream in the future. Maybe I don't even need to overthink it, but yeah, as long as we're talking and we're having a discussion, we're having fun, I guess it doesn't really matter. The reason why I pulled up the Chibaku Tensei in the thumbnail was because there's an argument that keeps coming up about like Pain is not able to hold up the Chibaku Tensei. And we could talk about that if you want, but I mean, I did talk about it a bit in my video. Basically, the summary of it is that like when Pain, I'll just go over it really quickly because it won't take too long. When Pain talks about, 1 second. So when the Devapath raises up the Chibaku Tensei, the catastrophic planetary construction or planetary devastation, the argument that I've heard some people make is that he drops it. And so the reason why, like, if you remember from Webcam Parrot and Swag's debate, it starts off with Swag saying, what does Kakuzu have that hits harder than the Chibaku Tensei? And personally, I think, you know, it's not the main threat of the jutsu is not even the massive amount of rocks that it could drop on somebody, although that is definitely part of the threat. But like fast, Naruto characters are so fast that they can potentially just evade the rocks, depending on how fast they are. But to me, it's more about the, you know, sealing Naruto inside and keeping him imprisoned, and then giving Pain the opportunity to then either like retreat from the battlefield, or to just like drain his chakra, or just to let him stay in there, be sealed and stuff like that. So what happens in the scene is that he throws up the gravity core into the sky. The gravity core starts attracting all the rock and earth, and Naruto himself gets first like just pinned, like he gets pulled up on this earth that he's standing on, and then he gets smashed into the actual planetoid and then pinned between the different rocks and smashed there, right? So he's stuck, he can't move. And then Conan says it's so big, our opponent is Ninetales, I can't go small, replies Nagato, and then he says, Operation Capture Ninetales is accomplished. So obviously he's extremely fatigued, he's bleeding from the mouth and from the nose, he's panting, but he still says Operation Capture Ninetales is accomplished, it's complete. And the Devapath over here has his arms lowered, whereas over here he does temporarily like throw, like he raises his arms for a second to throw the gravity core. But notice that like while he's running, the gravity core is assembling the Chibaku Tensei in the sky while he's running. He's not actively holding the hand sign. He's not actively maintaining the jutsu or like straining to hold it up or anything like that. It's just sitting in the sky and it's accumulating rock. Now, you could say that him doing this is him continuing to put more chakra into it. Because it seems like here he's straining, and then like here he's kind of done. So if you want to say that up until this point he was actively maintaining it or putting chakra into it or something like that, then that's fine. Also, I love the kalang kalang, like it's an interesting sound effect to associate with it. But anyway, that's fine. But now he says it's complete, and Tendo's just standing there, and Tendo's arms are lowered. And so then we see this little confused reaction. It's actually kind of adorable. In the middle of the fight, he's just like, oh, what the fuck? But anyway, so Naruto lets Eight Tails out. And now Eight Tails has broken through in a way that Six Tails couldn't do before. And the rocks around the outside are shattered and broken, and he's physically pushing through the surface. And with that being said, we then go on to Nagato. Let's do after this conversation with Minato. And wait, so yeah, Naruto is looking out the Chibaku Tensei, and he poofs away. And so the Nine Tails poofs away, and Naruto is standing on the outside of the Chibaku Tensei. Now at this point, Chibaku Tensei, it's a sealing jutsu, and the seal is broken. So it's not it's no longer intact. It no longer functions as a sealing jutsu, obviously. So actually missed one thing, one sec, because there's this moment where he first breaks out, and Pain is like this, that it was this powerful, and then I think he says that he should enlarge it, right? Yeah, here we go. So this is actually the key point. Right before everything else happens, he raises his arms up right now and says, I should enlarge it. So at this point, I think he's acknowledging that the Chibaku Tensei is broken, it's shattered, and he's going to need to repair it. And to repair it, he's going to need to put more effort into it. And so he gets up and starts to do that, and he's about ready to do that. And then this happens with Naruto. And then over here, he starts hacking and coughing, and then right after he hacks and coughs, there's a shockwave that goes through the whole thing. So I think it's totally fair to say that Nagato at this point, while heavily fatigued, while bleeding from the mouth, while he literally goes oof, while literally going oof, he can't repair the Chibaku Tensei, and he can't hold up the broken version of it. But as long as it's intact, as long as it's not damaged, then he doesn't need to actually do that. It just kind of sits on its own in the atmosphere. So hovering above the ground. So when it comes to Kakuzu versus Pain, I think it's important to consider what happens if Pain just like throws the Chibaku Tensei at Kakuzu's head, or even just like above him, and then let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Kakuzu does get caught up in the rocks and he's inside the Chibaku Tensei. Pain doesn't have to hold it up anymore. He doesn't just have to stand there with his arms raised all day. It's now on Kakuzu to break out of it. And how is he going to do that? Maybe he can. Maybe you think he's got a jutsu or an ability that can let him do that. But I just kind of wanted to take it, to start there, because it will come up in the video at some point, and just refresh everybody's memory on how the Chibaku Tensei works mechanically before we start looking at it in the matchup. Oh, looks like I gotta catch up on some messages. My bad. Oh, okay, yeah. Multiple layers interpretations, multiple examples to say that she did it. Name 2. The chummy thing, yeah. Okay, so Howard says, I already addressed the Gyuki commentary on the relationship, but he can just check in through B's POV and learn about human relationships. That doesn't mean she doesn't form something like that there. Okay, yeah, I think it's possible that it could be either way. As for the training comment, if you can't gauge it to say she has feats of display that don't have easy comparisons to less trained individuals in her boat, or people that or people even better than their meh. I'm not sure I quite get that. Let me try that one more time. As for the training comment, if you can't gauge it to say she has feats of display that don't have easy comparisons to less trained individuals. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yep. I think I do. So you just be looking for more feats to actually demonstrate that she's on the level of somebody that we know to be an actual perfect Jinchuriki. Yeah. Yeah, and Auherd, if you want, if you feel comfortable sharing your Discord name, I can send you an invite to the server as well. It's literally like very bare bones right now. It's just me with a rules page, but want to do like share stuff there, or like if we wind up having not a debate, or like a conversation over VC at some point, that's totally fine, and if not, that's totally fine too. I still haven't like done any housekeeping on it yet, so no worries one way or the other. So with that being said, I'm gonna go back to the video a little bit. I think I got about another half an hour this evening, and so we'll chip away at this just a little bit, and so here we go. I will say that I listened through the rest of the Weeaboo debate on my own, like to kind of refresh my memory, and it gets pretty rough. It gets pretty rough towards the end. So, are you gonna do it in the comment section? Yeah, that's totally fine. Oh yeah. I tried to send, or Kakuzu tried to send a link earlier. So. Or Kakuzu, do you want me to call you? Like, what do you want me to call you on stream? Is it confusing at all if I call you Kakuzu while I'm also talking about Kakuzu? Or do you want me to call you by your Discord name, or like? I mean, I'm cool with whatever. And feel free to like remind me if I forget, because I can be a little forgetful with that. Yeah, I don't want to pressure anyone ever to send or say any kind of information that they don't want to. Like, this, people are weird with information online. Like, people do lurk sometimes, and people do act weird about it. So I don't want to you know, do whatever feels comfortable with. There's never going to be any pressure from my end, for sure. Oh yeah, let's back up. I think we're at the three-ish minute mark, so I'm just gonna go back a little bit. Let me know if you have any questions, if you see anything weird. That's perfect, right? We were talking about the Chibaku Tensei. So yeah, let's just see how it goes.
On Biju level even further, there's a direct statement in the third data book on page 196 that says, hardened skillful masters even stronger than Jinchuriki. And later on down the page, it's...
I think it's very important to note that what it says is hardened skillful masters even stronger than a Jinchuriki. And I know that seems nitpicky, right? It's just one letter off. But I think the interpretation that Noodles uses, and I've heard other people mention this before, is that this statement means that any individual Akatsuki member can, by definition, according to this, beat up any individual Biju or any Biju Jinchuriki combo. So that means that like Two-Tone Zetsu and Konan and Sasori and Deidara and Hidan, they can all beat up Killer B and all the other Jinchuriki and or their Biju on their own. And I think if you actually go through the scaling and you go through the fights, I don't think most people would agree with that, right? That Hidan has taken out Killer B. Maybe you have an argument for it. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't know. I think that leaping to that conclusion from this is a little bit much. Saying that that each of them are like able to fight Jinchuriki, and that together as a team they can win against Jinchuriki and Biju. Yes, absolutely. But it's just important to keep that in context. For what it's worth, I do think that there are Akatsuki members who can do this. I think there's an argument, at least, that like Itachi and Kisame could probably beat all of the Biju Jinchuriki combos in one-on-ones, because I think there's an argument that Killer B is the strongest Jinchuriki before KCM2, and Kisame beats him up. And Itachi, I think, is probably stronger than Kisame. I mean, Kisame regards him as his superior. So, and especially if you factor in like all of his hacks and crazy abilities and stuff, yeah, I think Itachi is pretty demonstrably stronger than Kisame. Maybe debatable, but probably. So, either of those two individuals could probably do all of the Akatsuki's homework and just win on their own. Obviously, the story would be less compelling and less interesting with fewer characters, so it doesn't make sense to do that. But I don't think Hidan on his own could go through all of the Akatsuki Biju and Jinchuriki one by one and get them all himself in sequence. But I do think that maybe Itachi could do it, for example. So there's some nuance here. It is important to be precise about these terms, especially if you're going to take them at face value, right? I think that seems fair.
It says that Pain believes that when the Akatsuki are formed into pairs, they will lose neither to a Biju nor Jinchuriki.
Yeah, when they're in pairs, that's also important. Don't underestimate also the power that comes out of Hidan and Kakuzu working together as a team, because they both have the resurrection mechanic essentially. So I think the strength of their teamwork is not just like Kakuzu's AP plus Hidan's AP. They can actually do abilities, do techniques and stuff like pressure damage that incorporates Hidan as well, that they wouldn't be able to do as individuals. So their strength is stronger than the sum of their parts. That's the phrase I'm looking for. That's worth considering too.
This would mean that Pain has to have some jutsu or ability to deal with the Biju and Jinchuriki. This would
he can have multiple. It doesn't have to be just one.
at least scale to the Chibaku Tensei, since it is his most powerful jutsu, which was even somewhat contained in Eight Tails Naruto.
So I disagree that the Chibaku Tensei is his most powerful jutsu. It depends on how you interpret that. It is probably the thing that displaces the most mass. So if you're talking about destructive capability, the amount of energy that's required to not only displace all of this rock, but to hold it in the air indefinitely, or at least until the gravity core runs out or whatever, if it even does run out, that is a lot of chakra and a lot of force. And so yes, in that respect, it is definitely very powerful. However, I think there's an argument to be made that like the Kamui is a more powerful jutsu than the Amaterasu because of all of the utility it provides and all of the potential killing power it provides, and like the mobility and everything else. Like overall, over the course of a fight, it can be more versatile and more useful than the Amaterasu, which is really great if it hits a target that then doesn't have a way to counter it. But the Kamui itself, I think, is more of a problem in certain situations. So I would actually say that Pain's strongest ability is probably the Shinra Tensei, just because it's more versatile. He can scale it up and down. He can channel it. He can focus it. It does have a drawback, but he seems to be able to use the lower grade versions of it over and over and over again. Even the small versions are big enough to displace those three giant toads at once. One of them effectively killed Kakashi and Choza and Choji and all those other Chunin. It didn't kill them all, sorry. But it like critically injured several of them, and that wasn't anywhere near his biggest one. So the Chibaku Tensei is really great if he can capture something big in it, but if the characters can like outrun the speed of the rocks getting like zoomed up into the core, then I think human-sized characters, small characters, can potentially just run away if they're fast enough. Just go the other direction. Pain actually needs to be able to get them in a situation where they'll be sucked up into it, and resourceful characters might just be able to avoid that. So I don't know. That being said, having a fucking moon dropped on your head, even if he misses with it, is still a big deal. But it's such a high risk, high investment sort of ability that has one very specific function that I don't even know if it's going to be useful against somebody like Kakuzu, unless he can do something like he throws up the gravity core and then he uses a Shinra Tensei to blast Kakuzu at it, or like he pins Kakuzu to a rock with some chakra rods and then brings him up into the Chibaku Tensei or something like that. It would have to be a combination of different things. So, I don't know, edgy take maybe, but I think that Chibaku Tensei does kind of get a little overblown because of how cool it is and how big it is, but actually using it practically, I think, is more challenging than people give it credit for. A defeat through exhaustion, yeah, absolutely. He's clearly exerting himself to a massive extent with this as well, so it comes with a risk. If you did the chakra exchange and like thought about how many more like Shinra Tensei's Pain could use if he used all the chakra for that against a humanoid opponent, or like, I don't know. It feels to me like it's a very risky gamble.
Pain shown, such as Tendo Pain destroying Ross and Shuriken with the Shinra Tensei, but I have an issue with this that I'll explain later, so that will actually bring it into the AP and Strength section for Pain.
So I don't know if you guys need a refresher of what was talked about before, but like, I think, was it Alhert that kind of brought up that there's a lot of other things that Pain can do. Some of the things that he does are AP based, like the Asura Path's missiles, and also the punch that ripped off Jiraiya's arm, or whatever hit that he did that ripped off Jiraiya's arm, and the like energy blast from his head, and then the fact that the Asura's arms were capable of restraining Naruto and B. You could say, well, that was Edo, but you could also say that, well, it's mechanical arms, so maybe they function the same. There's a debate there, maybe. But anyway, like, there's a lot more things that path does. The AP of all the different animal summons, of which there are 8, hasn't been discussed yet. It's not exactly AP, I guess, but like the soul pulling abilities, the 2 soul pulling abilities, he is going to talk about that in a second. But I don't think this was a very like exhaustive overview of all the different things that Pain can do to hurt whatchamacallit, to hurt Kakuzu potentially, unless he's just referring to Tendo, in which case, yeah, I think that's it. But maybe some more discussion of the chakra rods could have been useful. But anyway, we can keep going.
Pain's...
Oh, hang on one second. Yeah, since he has to be immobilized, it seems, in order to concentrate. Yeah, that's the thing. I do kind of believe, like, I talked about this in the Swag versus Noodles video, that if Itachi was on his own and he, like Pain threw a Chibaku Tensei thing up into the sky, I think, like, Itachi might just be able to run in the opposite direction. Now, granted, while he's running, he could be vulnerable to something that the other path is doing. But if we look at the fact that Pain had to disable the other 5 paths while Deva was doing the massive Shinra Tensei, and we assume that something like that has to happen for the Chibaku Tensei as well, then that would probably mean what? That Pain is going to be fully committed to the Chibaku Tensei while he's going to be occupied doing that, and he's not going to be able to send somebody else after Itachi while he's running away. That's why I kind of think that, like, it might make sense if Itachi has this big Susanoo up with the Yata and everything, that if Pain could like throw it at the Susanoo and then force Itachi to like either try to catch him off guard like that, or to force him out of the Susanoo, that could work, and then set himself up for a combo attack or something like that. But I really think it's designed specifically to capture very large targets like the Biju, and I don't know if it's going to be as effective on small humanoid targets. So, while Kakuzu is sucked in the Chibaku Tensei, the hearts attack Pain, who tries to complete the jutsu. If the hearts can get away and maneuver and like go hide or something, that's a possibility. I will say I don't know if the hearts individually have great speed feats, and so I would like grant you that Kakuzu might be able to just sprint away. Maybe, I mean, the hearts were able to like out dodge what's his name, Choji's giant slap on the ground, and he saw that coming, so you could maybe look at that as a speed feat for them. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if they necessarily have the level of intelligence and spatial awareness and dexterity and all that to get away from all the rocks that are flying all over the place. I think Kakuzu probably does. I think it's probably more likely that he would use his Jiangu transformation, like his assault mode, and then just use his tentacles to help him navigate through the debris field and just like run and go as fast as he possibly could. Or that he would do what Naruto tried to do and basically use artillery fire to blast the rocks out of his way. Although it was not very effective when Naruto tried to do that, so I don't think it would necessarily succeed for him either. But yeah, I think that Chibaku Tensei just needs to be taken with a grain of salt, that's all. Yeah, you have to be immobilized in order to concentrate. Yeah, basically. Well, not immobilized because he's running, right? Like he's actively running when he throws a Chibaku Tensei into the sky. You can see that, right? He throws it and then he's actively on the move, and he's in a different place. Like he has to outpace the assemblage of the or assembling of the planetoid. So he can still move while he's doing it, but I don't know if he can continue fighting while he's doing it. Yeah, I think part of the reason why Naruto gets captured is because he's not really cognitively like smart or aware in this moment, and he's just kind of getting pinned between the rocks and he's like surprised by it, and he's just looking around, and then he tries to fight it by shooting a Biju bomb at it, and it just gets absorbed. It does blast some of the rocks back out, but you can see the rocks like stop moving and then slam back into the Chibaku Tensei here. So yeah, like if Naruto was actually fully cognizant, I think he might have been able to just, like, what if he literally, like that part in Elden Ring where the meteor blasts into the earth, like what if Naruto had managed to get outside and just like hop down off the rocks? I don't know, maybe you could make the argument that since here he's like clearly pinned up against the rocks, it's smacking down onto him and he's not able to get up, that once you get within a certain radius, then there's no escape. Like, you just can't push yourself off of it. But when he's down here and it's still being assembled, I don't know. I think he could probably just like run away. Maybe. Just a Sora's Punch ripped a Beyond Sunny level by Jiraiya's own words in Sage Mode. Yeah, that's very true. Yes, Kakuzu and Holidays, it does definitely improve durability. Let's see. See if I can actually find the scan, but the clear example that people tend to mention is when Naruto is training on the rocks, he falls off and he, like those kind of spiky, like what do you call them, like the stalagmites or whatever, he falls off and he's like nervous, he thinks he's gonna get hurt, and then he lands on the ground and he's like, oh wait, that didn't actually hurt at all. And then there's the other thing that Noodles will bring up, I'm sure. Yeah, this part over here, right? So he's gathering the Sage Chakra. Gets it, or the Nature Energy, rather. Okay. So then the bird comes and trolls him and pushes him off Fukasaku's face. So yeah, he's clearly like not looking forward to smashing into these like sharp rocks. And then he's like, huh? It doesn't hurt that much. And that is Sage Mode. Your whole body becomes activated in all different ways. So this, plus the fact that like during the fight with Pain, which is the thing I was gonna say, like Noodles is definitely, he definitely talks about multiple times. When Naruto gets gut punched by Tendo, he says like, I'm in Sage Mode, you can't hurt me, you idiot, or something like that. And I think, yeah, it's right before this, right? The mistake there to be careful of is saying that like, because Naruto has access to Sage Mode, then that somehow means that Pain can't kill him at all, which is what Noodle said during the debate with Swag. So yeah, let's just read this real quick. So, Banjo Tani, Universal Pull. Naruto is in Sage Mode currently because you can see the frog eyes. He gets pulled in, and Preda actually like bashes him in the stomach, and it seems to wind him, right? And is able to grab him by the shoulders and then hold him in this body lock. And Naruto says, you think you can hurt me? I'm in Sage Mode, you idiot. Now my turn. And then the Sage Chakra gets drained right out of him. So the mistake that Noodles made, in my opinion, was that he looked at this and then he was like, well, this means that Pain can't hurt Naruto. Like, Naruto is incapable of getting hurt in the fight overall. So, like, Pain cannot beat Naruto, which is obviously not true because he does beat him. He drains his Sage Chakra and then he defeats him. But more to the point, yeah, I mean, like, this is still one of the paths of Pain. It's like sucker punches Naruto in the stomach, and then he's like, yeah, actually, no. Like, I don't care. Because having access to Sage Mode, I think, does make him super durable. Now, in a debate, you could counter that by saying, like, well, yeah, but what AP feats does the Predapath have in... because this is the Absorby one, right? It's, like, not supposed to be very physically strong. So you could say that, maybe. But I think the fact that Naruto isn't just like, hey, this shitty path over here that's weak in taijutsu can't hurt me. He's saying, like, I categorically, like, I'm not going to be hurt by any of your taijutsu because I'm in Sage Mode, because it makes me stronger. And then the emphasis is on that. Like, once it goes away, that's no longer the case, right? So, Dachoji and Kakashi couldn't stop them too. Yeah, that's probably fair. The hearts are intelligent in the anime, but not in the manga. But anyway, he can use them. I mean, I definitely think he can use them. I just don't know if it's fair to compare them to like an actual like fully fledged shinobi who's making tactical decisions and jumping around and stuff like that. And like obviously the hearts can't like use the other hearts in the way that Kakuzu can, right? They don't have the same, they don't scale to him, I guess is what I'm trying to say in terms of overall maneuverability would be my guess. Maybe you could argue that jumping around and stuff like that, they're more aerodynamic or something. I don't know. Does Jiraiya have this as well since the Sage mode is... Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think it does. Like, Sage mode itself categorically makes you stronger because the chakra that's running through your body is, like, it's no longer just what's it called? Physical energy and mental/spiritual energy. It now has the component of natural energy that's a part of it as well. And so I do think just inherently Sage mode will make you stronger. Now, or more durable. Now, Naruto himself is able to do the transformation into frog mode or whatever better than Jiraiya could because he doesn't like have... when he enters Sage mode, he doesn't like manifest the anatomy of the frog the way that Jiraiya does. But remember, Jiraiya has both Ma and Pa on his shoulders, and they're far more experienced and powerful sages, at least in terms of being in sync with nature and accumulating nature energy. And so they're the ones who are actually doing the gathering of nature energy and just giving it to Jiraiya. He's not as good at controlling it, but he's getting it from them. So you might argue that his mode should actually be more powerful than this version of Naruto's because he's got those two sages giving him the chakra. But I don't know. Yeah, trying to see if there's another thing. I wonder. Sometimes the wiki has good references to say. It says here the user's physical strength, speed, stamina, and reflexes, perception, and durability are enhanced. Stage transformation. Yeah, so I'm not gonna necessarily go through all these right now, but I think, you know, sometimes looking at the references here can be good for kind of providing a place to start looking for more research. But yeah, to answer your question, I do think it just makes you stronger or more durable, tougher, and that applies to Jiraiya as well.
Speed is much less
because it's the Sage chakra itself, right? It's, or not even Sage chakra. It's Senjutsu chakra, whatever. It's the addition of the natural energy into it that just makes the chakra stronger across the board. So that applies to your taijutsu, your ninjutsu, and your physical stats as well.
Convoluted than people realize, seeing as he only has 2 fights. So start Pain was shown
wait, hang on.
So that will actually bring it into the AP and strength section for Pain. Pain's speed is much less convoluted than people realize, seeing as he only has 2 fights.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that take. Yes, there are 2 major fights that Pain is involved in, namely the fight against the village that then leads into the fight against Naruto, and then the fight against Jiraiya. But there's also information that you can glean from the fight against Hanzo to a lesser extent, and then the fight against the Edo fight. Now, granted, the scaling is different in those 2 instances, but you can still like glean things about like Nagato's reaction times and stuff from the Edo fight. Not to mention that it's very important whenever you have a debate or a discussion about Pain versus anybody, that there's a difference between Nagato and Pain, and I'm not just talking about the fact that like Yahiko's body, the Devapath Tendo Pain, is a different body than Nagato's body. Like, Pain is 6 people, really one person controlling 6 people, but there's 6 individual bodies, and they don't all necessarily have equivalent stats. They don't all necessarily like function equivalently. Like, by definition, they each have their own like path abilities and stuff. So I chafe a little bit against the phrasing of like Pain's speed, like his speed isn't convoluted, when you have to account for the fact that not only are you talking about the individual paths speed in and of themselves, but then you're talking about the effective combined speed of these 6 paths working together as a synchronized unit. Not to mention the addition of additional animals that can share the shared field of vision and that might have different stats as well. Like, it's not a guarantee that the Predapath, the Animal Path, the Dog, and the Rhino all move at the same speed, right? So it is actually, when you break it down, it's actually very fucking convoluted, almost to an irritating extent, unless you're just talking about Tendo, in which case, yeah, Tendo specifically has 2 fights, and he doesn't do anything really in the Jiraiya fight, apart from show up at the end to stab Jiraiya with all the others, but he's not really active in that fight, as far as we can see. So that is true. It's just an important distinction.
So to start, Pain was shown capable of reacting, blocking, and tagging Kakashi multiple times. Although Kakashi was weakened throughout a majority of this fight, it is worth noting that Pain was still comparable to Kakashi in the beginning of their encounter.
Okay, I don't know, I say. So I'm not exactly sure how to address this claim that Kakashi was weakened throughout most of the fight. I'll just say that this comes up in the Weeaboo debate as well. And I think this stems from a misunderstanding of 2 things. One is the idea that Kakashi is at less than half chakra for most of the fight that he's fighting Pain. And the second is that being at less than half chakra makes you weakened to begin with. So the first thing, when Kakashi shows up, let's just talk about what he actually does. He shows up and he intercepts the chakra rod from Tendo. He gives the others an opportunity to escape, dodges a kick, and he uses a mud wall. So that's the first jutsu he uses. That's one. Then he gets pierced by this this thing over here. So the footage that Noodles is using here is from this beat, right? He just got attacked. This happened right here in the beginning of the fight. So he's claiming that Kakashi is weakened, and then he's associating this picture with him being weakened. I don't see any reason to believe why Kakashi would be weakened here. There's no context for that. There's no background for that. Later in the Weeaboo debate, he clarifies that he thinks that Kakashi becomes weaker after he uses his quote-unquote lightning dog. He means the lightning beast tracking fang. So let's see what happens. So Kakashi's used the mud wall. He got stabbed once by the chakra rod. He charges up 1 Raikiri and is trying to use it on Pain. Gets his chakra disrupted and missed. So there's 2 jutsus and 1 jutsu and 1 wound. Now he charges up another one, so there's 3, and then Pain blows him back. Okay, and he's gotten hit by 1 Naruto Tensei and gotten 1 stab wound. Now let's go marshaling the forces. I think there's a little beat with Sakura punching the centipede over here. Yep. Have faith. Okay, and then okay. So now Kakashi at this point has this over here is Kakashi's lightning clone. So now he's done 2 Raikiri, he's taken 2 attacks, and he's taken a mud wall, and now he's made a lightning clone. After he makes this lightning clone, the lightning clone sends out, I think this is what's happening, right? It sends out this lightning hound. So the hound is coming out of the lightning clone. We can fact check that in a second. I think that's what's happening here. And then Pain dispels that as well. And then he uses another Raikiri to try and stab the Asura Path in the back, and he misses because of the shared field of vision. We talked about that a second ago. Okay, so that's another jutsu. And then his lightning clone gets dispelled. And this is why I think you could say that maybe he does a lightning clone substitution here, right? Like, at this point, he's a lightning clone, and before, when he does a lightning dog, he wasn't. So maybe this is his lightning clone, maybe before it was not. But now he gets sucked in and pierced by the Asura Path, or so we think, and then it turns out it's a lightning clone. After all of this, Choja shows up, and then he says, I did have something in mind, but this will help me preserve some chakra. We're almost done kind of going over this. And here's what is said. A trap shadow doppelganger, so he had already hidden himself, only using substitution arts and doppelgangers until he determines the nature of their enemy and his abilities. Kakashi's up to his old tricks. So, you still, which means, ... that they're planning on doing something. So he's thinking that they're about to execute some sort of plan together. And he says, you still have enough chakra, implying that it's enough chakra for something that they have in mind. I already had to use the lightning style shadow doppelganger, so I've spent over half my chakra, and honestly a prolonged battles against such an adept opponent is going to be tight. But at the same time, I've deduced some of their abilities. So, there's a couple ways you could look at this. One is you could look at this literally and say that the lightning clone itself took over half of Kakashi's chakra. That's because what he's literally saying, right? He's saying, I had to use the clone, so I've spent over half my chakra. And that could be one valid reading. Or you could look at it as him telling us that it's the lightning clone plus all those other jutsu that put him at half his chakra. Either way, is he actually tangibly weakened at this point in the fight? Maybe you think he is, but do we actually see him start to move slower? Does he have worse feats overall? Does he have decreased durability? Does he have decreased accuracy? Does his ability to stay focused on the fight and develop meaningful strategies get eradicated? He comes through the ground over here and dashes right at Tendo, right? He tanks a hit from it, gets blasted back, and this was part of a plan that he was engaging in with these other two characters, and he manages to set this up and then charge up another Raikiri and dash right at him. So at what point in this fight does he get weakened? At what point do we actually start to see positive evidence, like demonstrable evidence, that Kakashi is weaker? I don't think that's the case. I think that whenever a character reduces their total chakra pool by using a lot of jutsu, then they have less available for future attacks. So you can argue semantically that they are weaker in the sense that their overall arsenal of jutsu is not as replete. Like if I have, an assault rifle and I have 3 magazines full of ammunition, and then I use 2.5 of them, I'm not necessarily weaker as a person, and the gun isn't weaker, it's not shooting less accurately, or the bullets aren't less powerful. However, you could say, in a way, I'm weaker as an overall fighter because I don't have access to as many options. I'm more limited, and maybe my arms are tired or something like that, like from shooting so much. I don't know. But I'm not really seeing that up until this point. At this point, Kakashi's weakened because he can't get himself out. But I think that's it, right? I don't think that there's another point in the fight where he's where this becomes an anti-feat because he's more fatigued. He's able to keep doing what he was doing before. He's just not using as many large jutsu, as many Raikiri and stuff like that. But of course you could say, okay, if you do actually believe that he's weaker the more jutsu he uses, then he does use a lot. So if you disagree with me and you think that he gets weaker every time he uses the jutsu, well, he does use a shit ton of jutsu, and so you could try to argue that makes Pain's feats less impressive. But Pain is able to react to him consistently, over and over again throughout the fight, even when he does have backup and is engaging in these complex techniques with other people, and he doesn't hardly move the entire time. He moves slightly to the side. He's not exactly being super aggressive and going on the offensive. He's just standing there and spamming the one or two attacks over and over again, and he's crippling anybody else who comes nearby. So I wouldn't look at this as any kind of an anti-feat for Pain, or to be something that reduces the impressiveness of the feat for Pain. I think he's still able to, the fact that he's still able to keep up with Kakashi this consistently over and over again, I think it's to his credit, so to speak. He does have physical awareness regardless, plus the other toads didn't even react to his sword showing up. Yeah, they did. That's a good point too. They should have noticed, and they didn't. And Jiraiya was shown to be really fast in that fight. I think Six pointed out that he when he enters Sage Mode for the first time, there's a sandal of his that falls off of his foot, and he manages to close the distance with the other. I think I know where that is. Yeah, is it this one? I think it's in this chapter. Let me just look real quick. when he first starts going on the offensive. Six pointed this out in his video on Jiraiya versus Kakuzu, I think. It's after the kick. He's like up on the wall. He says after the predator path. Yeah, it's up here. So, I mean, to get a precise calc on this, you would need to, I guess, see how high he is on the wall. Like he's that. Okay, that is actually pretty high. Maybe it's not quite as impressive as Six was making it out to be. But, I mean, you want to do the calc to try to find his speed. He goes like this. His sandal falls off, and then he manages, like, it's already falling, it's already going towards the ground, and he says this phrase, let's check it out up close. So this amount of the amount of time that it takes to say this, like what, 3 or 4 seconds or something, transpires, and then he jumps and gets there just before the thing hits the ground. So Jiraiya is really, really fucking fast. He should be able to turn around and hit the Asura path that's coming up behind him and basically bragging and being like, I thought you told me never to like let my guard down. And neither he nor Ma and Pa noticed that, as Auherd pointed out. And also, like, if after he starts talking, and he does hear him, because he does notice that, obviously, he has the little whatever, this little star thing, this little check mark, not a check mark, what would you call this? This action mark, indicating that he's become aware. So they're obviously all aware, and they start turning around, but they're not fast enough. That Sage Jiraiya that was fast enough to do that, like blitzing the like nearly blitzing the Predator path. Actually, that's probably not the right term for it, but you know what I mean, right? He just like manages to close distance to the Predator path before that sandal hits the ground. He can't even turn around fast enough before the Asura path goes to meet him and kicks him through the wall. That's the other thing too. The strength of the blast is so strong, it just like punches him through the stone wall. So he's at least over 51% of his stamina. Yeah, I think until he uses that jutsu, if that's what he's saying, is that it consumes 50% of his stamina, then yeah, I think that would be the case. He's a rival to a taijutsu specialist, yeah. So you're saying that Kakashi's the taijutsu specialist? I wonder about terms like that, because I always thought Kakashi's speciality was more ninjutsu from all of his copying, but I guess I wouldn't say he's not also extremely proficient in taijutsu. I just wonder, like, what do you have to do to qualify as a taijutsu specialist in the Naruto universe? Because Guy for sure is one, right? But Kisame isn't necessarily, even though he's very strong and he can, you know, get into a fist fight and do just fine, but he's not really a specialist, right? But I'm probably just splitting hairs. He at least has to be able to keep up to him in speed to consider superlative due to his status in the village. Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think a lot of people agree that Kakashi is the strongest in the village at the time of the pain fight, like stronger than Tsunade. I could definitely see a debate, you know, that Tsunade could potentially win, especially with Katsuyu. But they should be relative, especially since Kakashi is like one of the next candidates for Hokage anyway. So, or like, that's who they choose to be Hokage when Tsunade's out, right? So if being the strongest, or like at least being top tier, is a requirement for becoming Hokage, then yeah, like he should be some, like, in the ballpark at least, if not outright superior to her. So it makes sense. Like, he's the strongest in the village, and Pain is just like casually brushing him aside. It's kind of crazy. I meant that if he and Guy are portrayed as rivals, Guy is an ace at taijutsu. Perhaps Kakashi has a stamina amount to keep up with Guy, even if he's slower in physical movement. That is true. Yep, that's a very good point. And they specifically compete in taijutsu stuff, right? Like they do like races and taijutsu exchanges with one another. So it's not just like rivalry in overall skill. Like, Guy is challenging him to like laps around Konoha or something like that, or like thousands of crunches or whatever. And I know that like when Kakashi's going to start training with Sasuke before, like, to teach him the Chidori, he opens one of the gates to jump up the cliff that he's climbing up of, right? So Anyway, yeah, we can go a couple more minutes, but then I gotta wrap it up for the night.
Another speed feat as mentioned earlier is Pain's capability to react and combat base Naruto, and he was even able to block a Sage Mode kick from Naruto as well. The Sage Mode feat is impressive because it potentially means that Pain scales the War Arc Sage Naruto, which is stated and shown to be faster in combat speed than KCM Naruto. This means that Pain scales to both base Naruto and Kakashi for sure, and potentially even Sage Mode or KCM Naruto.
Okay, so as much as I want to glaze Pain all day, and I do, I really do want to, I have to say that I have some like significant problems with this, and this will probably be my last point for the night. So feel free to hit me up with any questions or any other comments that you might want me to address. But so something that I kind of chafe against is the fact that like this Naruto, who fights Pain, gets when he is in when Naruto fights Pain, he's in Sage Mode to start off with, and then he goes out of Sage Mode, and then he gets referred to by this term base Naruto, right? That's what people call him, base Naruto. And then going back to earlier in this fight, in the Kakuzu fight, they refer to, I should say Noodles, I don't know if anybody else actually does, they refer to, Noodles refers to this as Nine Tails Naruto, right? You'll hear him say that in the Weeaboo debate a whole bunch. Now, granted, Naruto is in base here, and then over here, when he starts to get ready to fight, you see a little bit of this, like the vertical slits in his pupils, which usually is associated with him getting some chakra from the Nine Tails. You notice, however, that his nails aren't longer. He doesn't have fangs when he talks. His eyes aren't getting darker overall. He doesn't have the whiskers. He doesn't have chakra flowing from around his body. But people will say that this is quote-unquote Nine Tails Naruto, and not really quantify how big the amp is that he's supposedly getting from the Nine Tails. And then comparing that to Naruto when he fights Pain, and when he leaves Sage Mode, they'll just call that base Naruto, right? So this, let me just skip ahead to, I think it's like 4:30, right? So this Naruto, when he comes out of Sage Mode, probably at the end of this, it's right after he defeats the Animal Path, right? So this is base Naruto. Obviously, there's a difference between this Naruto and this Naruto here. Regardless of the fact that his eyes may be slitted and he may have some QB chakra, which is debatable. Probably has enough to change his eyes cosmetically, but is that making him stronger? That's debatable. Point being, here, this base Naruto and this base Naruto are two very different things. Because this Naruto has gone through all of the training on Mount Myoboku, which not only means that he can use Sage Mode sometimes, but it also means that he has much better, much more delicate, much more mindful, and much more precise chakra control overall. Because it's not just like you go to the mountain, you get access to Sage Mode, and then you have to learn how to control how strong your punches and kicks are and how fast your body is now. Managing that chakra is way more difficult and has way higher risks. It's just like a much more advanced way of fighting. He's also able to use Rasengan techniques that he was never able to use before. He's able to infuse his Rasengan with Senjutsu chakra. I don't know if he's doing that now, but he does earlier. The Rasen Shuriken is a completely different jutsu for the most, like in terms of how like consistent it is, how strong it is. He can throw it, he can expand it. It's infused with Senjutsu chakra. All of that, it can be stable enough for him to maintain it for longer. So all of that involves a lot of training. He's like doing this shit, right? Like all that has involved a categorical level up in Naruto's performance. He is a much stronger person and fighter and more experienced fighter because he's been doing like the training with the Sage clones that accelerates his training. He's a much more advanced fighter at this point, even in base, than this guy is. These are two different characters viewed in a certain light, at least in terms of their combat efficacy. Let's go back and let's just repeat that one more time.
Feat is impressive, and he was even able to block a Sage Mode kick from Naruto as well. The Sage Mode feat is impressive because it potentially means that Pain scales to the War Arc Sage Naruto, which is...
No, no, he does not scale to the Sage Mode, to the War Arc Sage Naruto, because, again, this Naruto, even though he's in Sage Mode, it's Naruto who has gone through the KCM training. Not only did he go through KCM training, but he also went to... what's the word for it? He also like did the stacking the blocks training after getting Kurama's chakra. He also had the encounter with the Raikage where he was learning to better use his chakra, or better like master the mode, I guess you could say. And then finally, he had the encounter with Nagato and Nagato and Itachi, along with B. And so this Naruto over here is not only has he undergone much more training, strenuous training, dangerous training that he succeeded at, he's then also had multiple fights in which he's learned to use his chakra even more. So yes, now he's in Sage Mode. He goes out of KCM mode and into Sage Mode, and you could argue that Sage Mode is like doesn't have the same amount of raw power or jutsu power or whatever. That's fine. But this Naruto is still very different from this Naruto, and is still very different from this Naruto. So as much as I want to glaze Pain, I want this to be true, I guess, for my own like little headcanon. This is not how that works. You can't just swap these characters out like that.
Faster in combat speed than KCM Naruto.
Also, I don't really feel the need to like nitpick about this right now, but saying faster in combat speed, I think, is a little oversimplifying it. Specifically, it says he has a wider danger sensing range and it's faster. So I think we should talk about that more at some point, about just like how exactly it's counterintuitive, right? Like KCM, he goes through all this trouble to get the KCM mode. It's supposed to be categorically better, but Sage Mode is still faster. It's interesting to think about why that is.
This means that Pain scales to both base Naruto and Kakashi for sure, and potentially even Sage Mode or KCM Naruto.
I do think that there's an argument that Pain might, maybe, scale to KCM Naruto. Definitely Nagato does, just like factually, based on their fight together. You don't even have to speculate about that. But I mean, you can always debate it, but like I think it's made very, very clear on panel that Nagato is relative to KCM. With a 6-pass split up, maybe it's a bit more debatable. But the point still is that hang on, I'm gonna make sure I get this right.
Kakashi for sure, and potentially even Sage Mode or KCM Naruto.
Yeah, I don't think you can get to that conclusion from this data, is what I'm saying. I might wind up agreeing with this for other reasons, but I don't think that this is the way to get to that conclusion. Anyway, so as much as I'm eager to continue rambling about all this, I think I should probably wrap it up for the night. Feel free to throw any last minute questions my way. I'm going to think again this week. It's going to be a really busy week, and so my next stream is going to be at the regular appointed time, next Sunday at 7. If you guys, it seems like this is probably a good time, like a consistent time. It's late enough that, you know, everything else for the day is pretty much taken care of, but not too late that I'm like staying up super late or whatever. Hopefully that's the case for you guys too. I could potentially adjust the timing, but I'm feeling like maybe the 7 p.m. EST slot is working okay for the time being. Eventually I do want to try to do twice a week, whether that is twice a week Naruto, twice a week like one time Naruto, one time streaming or something like that. I'm kind of still working that out, but that'll probably start in like mid-February. For the time being, I'm just going to keep doing the Sundays until I can finish my little work sprint, but I'm getting there. Anyway, let me catch up on comments real quick. I don't really agree since Kurama's chakra is stronger than Naruto's basic chakra. I think it's probably the case, yeah. But my contention, I guess, is just that whenever we see Naruto get transformed in, or like get Kurama chakra to the extent that he's actually tangibly getting stronger, we always see a whole bunch of different signs. Like we see the whiskers, we see the teeth, we see the eyes, we see the hands, and the more and more transformation Naruto, the more and more Naruto looks like a fox, the more and more powerful he's getting, and that's supported by statements from other people. So my objection to this really is just like, it's possible that a tiny amount of Kurama chakra is coming out that is enough to transform his eyes, but I don't know if that means that he's getting any kind of tangible buff in the fight overall. Especially since a big part of that arc is that he decided to rescind the like to ignore Kurama's chakra and not use it after harming Sakura. And he's got the necklace on from Yamato as well. So like one of the big themes about this whole arc is that Naruto is not going to rely on the Nine-Tails chakra anymore. He's going to suppress it. So I think like what's happening there is he's literally like feels Kurama's power boiling up from within him, and he could have the opportunity to use it. A tiny bit's coming out in his eyes, and then he's like, no, I reject this, right? I'm specifically not going to use it, and he's holding it back. That's kind of what I think. Yeah, its threshold is larger than Naruto's own chakra, but consider that Naruto went non-stop on training while Kurama was trying to draw chakra from Naruto all the while. Yeah, that's a good point too. Like the way that they exchange their chakra and the way that Kurama tries to mess with Naruto over the series too is different, right? They're the way that they harbor chakra and use it on a moment-to-moment basis could be very different. That's the reason for why Naruto borrows some chakra of Nine-Tails for the Kakuzu fight. I don't think that is actually a decent argument that like maybe the fact that Yamato just said like he can't do more than 3 or like more than 2 and then he managed to do 3, you could say that maybe he used some Kurama chakra from that. But again, I don't know if that's the case because well, hang on. Well, thinking back to when Naruto summons Gamabunta for the first time, he gets Kurama chakra for that, right? So, and he doesn't transform into the fox. He doesn't like show any signs of foxitude or whatever. But he does tap into the Nine-Tails chakra to get Gamabunta. But I think he does also go into like the little mental dimension and asks him for some, because otherwise he's going to die. And we don't see him doing it here. So I guess you could look at it one of two ways. You could say that Naruto, just like in general, has the ability to just borrow a little bit of Kurama's chakra whenever he's in danger, or maybe Kurama just gives him a little bit, but then that's something that he can just do whenever, and he doesn't need to even transform to do that. Or and so it would be equally relevant for both the pain fight and the Kakuzu fight. Or you could say that in this instance, like, he's getting a little bit more to be able to do the Rasen Shuriken. The thing is, he shows that eye change before he uses the Rasen Shuriken, right? He's literally just standing there making the hand signs when it first shows up. I guess you could look at that and say, like, okay, he's preparing to use the Rasen Shuriken. He needs to, like, borrow a little bit of KCM chakra or, like, QB chakra in order to make one. Maybe. I don't hate that argument. I think it could be the case. But even if that were the case, if the chakra is going to the Rasen Shuriken, I don't know if that means that excuse me. I don't know if that means that he's then getting an overall stats boost, right? Because his body is not transforming and progressing to be more like the Nine-Tails. He's just taking the Nine-Tails chakra and putting it into the Rasen Shuriken. And the Rasen Shuriken that he's using here are more powerful and more consistent. So his Sage energy is... Like, I don't think he uses a Rasen Shuriken in base. Maybe he does later in the fight. But his Sage energy over here is just more powerful than whatever he's getting from Kurama over here. For a few reasons. But anyway. You can't say the amount is for him to get an amp from it. Yeah, exactly. I think it's sort of ambiguous. The Kurama chakra is enough. It's one of those things where, like, if Naruto is just freely dipping into Kurama chakra at whenever he wants, then I don't know. I want to be fair, and I want to acknowledge that, like, the eyes were drawn here for a reason, right? It's like it was a deliberate choice that was repeated, and we shouldn't just look at this and be like, well, you can't know if they're, like, just totally dismiss it and not care about it. I'm just... My headcanon, my intuitive, like, casual reader perspective is that he is probably getting a little bit of chakra from the Nine-Tails, but also that he's suppressing it and it's not amplifying his movements at all. Like, he's not allowing his body to assimilate with the Ninetales chakra. He's just like stealing some of it so that he has enough to use his for his jutsu, and or he's just getting pissed. Um, because the Ninetales comes out when he's angry. He's thinking about Sasuke, and it's more of a mental amp than an actual chakra boost. It's okay if we don't agree about this. I think there's some room for debate. Rasen Shuriken is only displayed as being costly on chakra, a mountain sage mode. No, I think it's the Rasen Shuriken is just a very powerful, costly jutsu in general, right? Like it's Rasengan plus shape manipulation. It's obviously a very difficult. There's sort of a powerful an analog between Naruto only being able to make a couple of them per day, and then Kakashi and Sasuke initially only being able to make a couple Chidori per day. I think it is just inherently very taxing. If anything, the Sage, like Senjutsu enhanced ones, should be quote unquote cheaper because he has the clones that can replenish his stamina, and then he has he's infusing it with another kind of energy, so he doesn't need to put as much physical and mental / spiritual energy into a given jutsu. If he's infusing the third kind into it, he can kind of save some of his basic energy, if that makes sense. Almost fainted. I don't know if he almost fainted. Maybe at the end of the fight. Autumn Basin's he at least done 4 in one day, whereas the pain fight 2 successful casts is what drains him. Yeah, when also the shadow clones too, right? Like they obviously, for Naruto it's not that big of a deal because he has a massive chakra reserve. Well, that's another thing, right? When Naruto does the whatever hundreds of clones against Mizuki in chapter 1, or the dozens of clones against Kimimaro, I think against Kimimaro he is actually transformed into like partially transformed actually, but obviously in chapter 1 he's not, so unless I'm misremembering. Oh, the fatigue versus Kakuzu. Okay, so here's the thing. When it comes to fatigue, this could be a whole video, honestly, because I know people have different opinions about it. When it comes to fatigue, for me to say that a character is fatigued, that to me means that overall their stats are somehow reduced. So they're moving less fast, they're moving, like their reflexes are worse, like they're panting or something like that, like they can't keep up, right? There's something about them that is tangibly lesser than how they would be at 100%. Now, going back to part 1, I think we just talked about this, right? In chapter 90, there's this thing from Ebisu, and I think what he says is, yeah. Oh wait, hang on. The music is. I need to push that. Where's this thing where? Yeah. Okay. So, Naruto says, "I ate my ramen and I slept well. I'm at full power." So, on the one hand, when Naruto shows up here, we don't really have any statements to the effect he's like, "Oh my god, like my muscles hurt so much and I'm so tired," and like, or like Kakashi says, "Why is his reflexes slower than usual?" Right? We don't have any statements from anyone here saying that Naruto is actually tired in this moment or that he's moving slower. So if we're just going back based on the evidence that's on panel, no, there's nothing necessarily here. There's also the idea that like, even though he has been training, we also see him like nap several times during the training, or like he passes out and then he wakes up a couple hours later. If you go back through the training in chapters 330 forward, there's several times where he does that, and we know that he has like absolutely freakish regeneration capacity, and so it could very well be that even though he's 30, even though he's been training, that he is at effectively 100%, because we don't have any statements to the effect that he's actually fatigued. However, and this is a big however, this exists. And this, I think, demonstrates to us that fatigue is not just like how much mana you have in your mana bar or whatever. It's also your overall mental state, the state of maybe your muscles, the state of like how much you've eaten, like there's just a lot of things that can contribute to your total stamina reserve. So what I would say, in order to be fair and equitable about this, what I would say about this is that when Naruto shows up, he is not debuffed with a speed debuff or a durability debuff. He's not nerfed because he's fatigued. but he's also not at 100%. His stamina is not at 100%. His mental fatigue might actually be affecting him. I think it's somewhere in the middle. So if you're trying to argue that Naruto here is crippled by fatigue, I don't think you can succeed at that. If you're trying to argue that he's at 100% and he's raring to go and he's just like totally unqualified in terms of his full potential, then that's also, I think, not fair either. Okay. I'm gonna read over comments real quick. I might have to go in a second, so if I don't read all the comments, let me just take a moment and say, yeah, I thank you again. I really appreciate you guys showing up and engaging in the discussion. It's always great to, to be able to share and to bounce ideas off and to have my ideas challenged. I always learn something new. Like every stream, you guys will share a new scan or like give me a new perspective on something. It's super awesome. So I'm very grateful for that. I will be here again next Sunday at the same time, and I'm gonna continue going forward with the video unless there's anything else you want me to check out. And what I might do is I might like read over the chat and post some responses in the comment section. If I forget to do that or whatever, feel free to bring any of this stuff up last time. Just gonna skim through really quick and see if there's anything. Yeah, disheveled does like just kind of mean like the literal definition of that just means you're dirty and gross and like out of order. But it could also be consistent with him being fatigued. But I think it's like there's different ways to look at it. Kisame was comparable, maybe, yeah. I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, I think Kisame clearly has one of the biggest chakra reserves on the Akatsuki. I don't know if he's necessarily like contradicting it, Kakuzu and Holiday, or Kaku. I think it's more like there's different ways to interpret it, and sometimes statements that are made in the manga there are ways to look at it in context and be like, well, I know this is what's stated, but that's not necessarily true. Like what's his name? Black Zetsu, when he's talking about Amaterasu, he says like if the left eye has the strongest genjutsu, the right eye has the strongest physical attack or something like that. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And then people look at that and they're like, well, Black Zetsu is smart and he knows things, and he just said that the Amaterasu is the strongest ability in the series and that the Tsukuyomi is the strongest genjutsu in the series. And it's like, we know now that neither of those two things are true. That Tsukuyomi might be the strongest single target genjutsu, but there's a lot of other abilities out there that I don't think it's fair to say that just because Zetsu said that we should just believe it at face value. So yeah, sometimes I think the truth can kind of require us to second guess, for lack of a better word, what's being said. But of course, if it is made abundantly clear and you just decide like, yeah, I don't care, well, that's another thing. But I don't think that's what's happening here. Kakuzu definitely does have high amounts of stamina. Yeah, considering the battle experience and also like the 5 hearts, like I think that contributes to it, right? Yeah, the 5 lives. If you're asking for definitive proof of his chakra reserve versus Kisame, I think those things are really difficult to prove numerically. What you could do is say like, let's just use like Kakuzu versus Pain, for example, right? Like you could look at Pain and say, look at all of the shit that he does, look at the total amount of destruction he causes, and then add that to the lives he resurrects at the end and stuff like that. And then try to like invent some kind of a number. Like, okay, he used 100 chakra points or something. And then if you add up all of Kakuzu's like ninjutsu attacks, be like, oh well, they were all only like city block level, where Pain's were like small country level, however you calc it, right? I'm not saying that that's accurate, but like whatever you decide. Maybe Kakuzu comes up with a 20 chakra points and Pain gets 100. The problem with that though is that we don't know when Kakuzu would run out of stamina, because he wasn't involved in combat long enough for us to see him actually get totally fatigued. So we can look at Kakashi, and Kakashi tells us, hey, I just used this lightning clone, so I'm below 50%. And whether you think that means the clone itself plus all that other stuff, or like the clone itself or the clone plus all the other stuff, we at least have a general idea of how much more he's got left in the tank. But Kakuzu, like, he never seems to slow down even after losing 2 of his hearts. So it's really hard to tell. And same thing with Kisame. Like, Kisame's effective chakra reserve is his plus all of his opponents. If he fights in the maximum efficiency, maximum efficacy. So it's really really hard. In that case, I think maybe we do kind of have to resort to statements. But even so, those statements might not reflect what's actually on panel, and it might be one of those things where you just have to be like, we got to go with the best information we have. We got to try to, make the best faith argument that we can, but we might not ever get like a precise answer. Yeah, I think Kakuzu probably can outlast most of his peers. I mean, like, well, that's another thing. Like, how do we compare Kakuzu's stamina to Sasori's? My intuition would be that Kakuzu probably has like vastly more than Sasori, because it's just his little heart inside. Like, it's not even his real body. So he's limited to the chakra that's in his puppets, and the chakra in his heart, and he's not gonna make any more, right? Like, it seems intuitive that Kakuzu would just have access to more, but maybe he just has like an insane amount in the little box that I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good place to stop. So thank you again. I really appreciate your time. Really cool to go over all this stuff. I look forward to it next week. I hope you guys have a good week with work and school and anything else you guys got going on. And yeah, be safe out there. A lot of craziness in the world. Hope that life treats you kindly.